before we move on to the rest of the video, this video is sponsored by Raycon. With the Super Bowl and the Winter Olympics this month, there's no better time to get inspired, push harder, and upgrade your workout routine. When you're training consistently, the right gear makes all the difference. So I've been using Raycon's bone conduction headphones, and they have completely changed how I work out. These sit outside your ears, which means you can listen to music or podcasts while staying aware of what's going on around you. Whether I'm running, lifting, or just going on a walk, I still get crystal clear sound without blocking out the world. Raycon's bone conduction headphones use off-ear audio, sending sound through vibrations in your bones. Pretty awesome. Your ears stay open, but your playlist, podcast, or call still comes through crystal clear. I use these when I'm running outside because I can hear traffic, bikes, or people around me without just killing the sound of the music. They're built for all-day use too. You get 13 hours of battery life. They're IP68 waterproof and dustproof, so sweat, rain, even sandy beaches are no problem. And the no bud fit doesn't slip, which makes them insanely comfortable while you move. And here's the kicker. Raycon rivals the big audio brands, but at about half the cost. Over 3 million customers already love Raycon, and they back everything with a 30-day happiness guarantee. The bone conduction headphones are here to help you go for gold. Go to buyraycon.com/snookbc to get 15% off, or hit the link in the description or the pinned comment. Thanks again to Raycon for sponsoring this video. And now let's get back into it. Am I the asshole for believing my daughter over a grown man? Originally posted on November 30th, 2023. I don't know if I watch too many crime shows or if I'm just paranoid, so I've come here to ask. Last week, I made chicken gnocchi soup. When it was almost done, I started helping my daughter with a school project. She got us both a bowl, and a few seconds later, my boyfriend runs into the room with a bowl and tells me to eat the bowl he has. I told him it was all the same, and he insisted that he wanted mine because it had more chicken. Thinking back now, I don't know how he would know that, considering my daughter dished it out. My daughter took the bowl he gave me and said she would eat it. He yanked it out of her hand and said, "No, it's for mom." I took the bowl and he went to the living room. I continued doing my daughter's project and told her not to eat the soup. 20-ish minutes later, I walked into the kitchen to pour the soups out, and he was still eating his. He asked why we didn't eat any, and I said the cat got into it while we were waiting for it to cool down. He screamed, "What? Was it your bowl? Cats can't eat that." I told him it was only a lick, but he has been stressed out watching the cat like a hawk. Obsessive even. His reaction was very weird. These accidents all happened before the soup incident over the span of 6 months. It wasn't one after another in a short period of time. Since then, my emergency money has gone missing. I keep money hidden just in case. I lost my older sister because she wasn't able to escape a dangerous situation, and I literally swore on her grave I would never be in that position. After the soup incident, I went to get my money and it was gone. It was hidden, and I changed the location every few months. I asked my daughter if maybe she found it, and that if she took it, I wouldn't be mad because I knew she couldn't have spent it. She said no. A few hours later, she tells me she forgot, but the other day, her and my boyfriend got pulled over, and she saw my pink wallet in his glove box. I did not tell her which wallet it was, or that it wasn't a wallet. I decided to ask him if he found it by accident. He asked me why I was hiding a large amount of money. "You know, you could never leave me," and laughed. He has never said anything like that before. I told him it was my daughter's Christmas. He said no, he didn't find the money, but could use his credit card for gifts. I didn't tell him about my daughter seeing my wallet in his car. Now, here are a few other things that have happened in the past few months that seemed random at the time, but now they don't. I have a severe allergy to latex. One day, we were about to have intimate time, and I glanced at the mirror we have by our bed and saw the condom wrapper was a different color. I stopped him because it wasn't latex free, and he said it was a mistake and just an older one he had. We had been dating for over 2 years, and he knows how serious my allergy is. My EpiPen that I keep in my room is missing, and I didn't realize it. I didn't realize it was missing until I was searching for my money. Another odd thing is one day he was following me down the stairs while I was carrying laundry, and he kicked the back of my leg and I fell. He said he had slipped, but the stairs are wood and he was wearing his steel toe boots. At the time, I thought it was an accident. Am I overthinking this? My anxiety has been at an all-time high. Do I watch too much true crime? Here's why I think I might be the asshole. We have a good relationship. He loves my daughter like she is his. We split all shared bills and we both pull our own weight around the apartment. We don't fight. He has never so much as raised his voice at me. We are paycheck to paycheck, but bills are paid. I thought about going to my mom's house for a few days and asking him when I can get there, when I'm safe about the money, but I don't have any money to do that now. She is on a fixed income and can't help. I feel stupid for being scared. Last night, I decided to check his car for my wallet, and he caught me. I asked him for my money back, and he tried playing dumb. I told him my daughter saw it there. He told me she was lying. I told him I never told her about the money or the wallet. He said he was a grown man and kids lie all the time. I asked him once more for the money, and he said, quote, "I'm not giving you money to leave me." I waited until he was in the shower to grab my cat and my daughter, and we left. I can't take my cat with us to the shelter, and the DV shelters are full. I was able to get us a night at a cheap motel. This exact situation is why I had money saved. I did everything right, and now I'm screwed. I feel like I just blew up my entire life. Yes, I'm using a burner account and reading all the comments that I can. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, "I would not be at all surprised if he took out a life insurance policy on you." And I agree, because this is very concerning. I mean, it seems like he tried to do something extreme multiple times. Kicking her leg while walking down the stairs, being super weird about the soup, and also the latex thing. Very, very concerning. And also, the EpiPen being missing. That is very concerning. Someone else says, "Run immediately." And luckily, the OP did. Someone else says, "Once is an anomaly. Twice is a coincidence. 3 times is a pattern. Document everything. Get your money and your papers and valuables to someone you trust and get yourself and your daughter out safely. You are not being paranoid, and you need to trust your instincts." Someone else says, "Not the asshole, and oh God, run away." I mean, the red flags are so obvious here, it almost seems made up, like a television script. If this is real, run away from that murderer you live with. Someone else says, "NTA, you are smart to trust your gut and run. Safe men are not concerned whether you have money to leave them." This almost sounds like he has a special interest in your daughter and is playing the part of the perfect boyfriend so that you do not start expressing your concerns/misgivings about him to your mom/family, who could block his adoption process of your daughter after your accidental passing. He is actively and flippantly risking your life, often in the most sneaky/black-handed ways, hiding the EpiPen and emergency fund, hoping you wouldn't notice until it was too late, and showing a considerable lack of concern for your own well-being. If my boyfriend had kicked me down the stairs, he would have either scrambled to catch me or flown down those damn stairs to make sure I was okay. Please take the time tonight to write out in bullet points every questionable event/close call you can remember, including the ones listed above, with approximate dates, so you A, have a retrospect timeline to share with your counselors/therapists/other professionals who may be helping you navigate the aftermath of this/B, can see yourself through the list of reasons why you'll never go back and stop questioning your decision. And in my opinion, it's very clear that the OP is in a bad situation, and the OP posts an update 4 days later. Let's get into it. My post got a lot of attention and my account was shadow banned for a few days. I was able to appeal and get my account back because I'm not a bot or some AI. Now for the update. The day after we left, he sent me a picture of my EpiPen and tried telling me it was in my nightstand the whole time. I tore that room apart looking for it, so I know for 100% fact it was not there. He took it. He tried getting me to come back, telling me I scared myself stupid and watched too many true crime TV. Something didn't feel right, so I told him to put my money and EpiPen in the mailbox. He went back and forth and he denied having my money. He then said, quote, "If we broke up, you and Maria, my daughter, are no longer allowed in my apartment and will be treated like trespassers," and sent me a picture of his target practice sheets. And holy shit, that is deeply concerning. And if you guys don't know, target practice sheets for shooting guns, and that's how you practice shooting. And that is, him alluding to shooting them, which is absolutely Horrific. She continues saying, I went to the police about my money and was told it was a civil issue. I was upset but wanted the rest of my stuff, so I asked for an escort. Yesterday, I finally got an escort into the apartment with a cop and my landlord. He destroyed everything of my daughter's, and he ruined the laptop charger I use for work. No EpiPen. My daughter's medication and backup medical supplies were ruined. Our landlord let me off the lease without having to pay an early termination fee, which is great considering I have no money. Motels are expensive. I don't want to get rid of our cat. All shelters are full, and this is scary as shit. I'm sorry this is a shitty update, but I know people wanted it. And I mean, that's great that the landlord let her off without having to pay the early termination fee. That's really awesome. But geez, this is horrific. The boyfriend destroyed everything of theirs, and now the daughter doesn't have medication. The OP doesn't have their EpiPen and or their charger. And oh my God, this guy is a monster. The OP's ex-boyfriend, I assume. And let's get into some of the top comments on this. Someone says, I don't understand how the theft of cash is a civil matter. You should be able to press charges for theft, and it looks like a decent amount. Property damage, vandalism, and maybe other things. Destroying medications might come under child endangerment. By sending pictures of your EpiPen, he's proven that he has it and is keeping it from you. That might count for something too. Don't know the laws where you are, but if they don't charge him with something, it's bullshit. Push the police to do something, as he's obviously a danger. If your name was on the lease, then it wasn't his apartment. He couldn't have made a clearer threat than treated like trespassers, and you can't be a trespasser in your own home. I'm so glad you're out and safe. I was worried for you and your daughter. I hope you find somewhere safe to stay with your mom or a friend while you get things together. Maybe your mom or friend could look after the cat if you could get into a shelter, but above all, keep yourself safe. Don't let them know where you're staying if you can help it. This will get better. Someone else says, wow, he probably wanted to kill you. He is a psychopath. And then the OP posts an update 6 days later, and let's get into it. My original post got a lot of attention, but then my account got shadow banned and was temporarily removed. I just updated 5 days ago, but this will be my final update because there's nothing anyone can do. I was encouraged to go back to the police station after my last update. On Saturday, December 9th, I went back again. This time I printed out the threatening text messages that included the target practice sheets he sent. I explained in detail about the quote accidents proving he was trying to hurt me. And I even had my landlord put in writing that he believed our lives were in danger after seeing everything I was showing the police and let me leave the lease early. I brought in the destroyed medical supplies and medications. The police said they had already talked to him and said he didn't do any of it. He told them my daughter probably destroyed her stuff because she is, quote, special ed. She has very mild Asperger's, but doesn't destroy things. Since it was his word against mine, they believed him. I didn't have proof he stole the money or that it even existed in the first place. I was told the EpiPen was my responsibility and they won't do anything if it's lost. I was told to, quote, let it go, and acted like I was bothering the police with my, quote, petty civil issues. I am so defeated and angry. My daughter isn't going to have gifts for Christmas because I have to save for a new deposit on my apartment. We've been staying in motels while I was reaching out to DV resources. I can't get help without a restraining order / police report. Every place is out of funds. He's getting away with everything, and I'm so glad we got out because there's no doubt in my mind he would have gotten away with my murder. I know this sounds like my last update, but that is what happened. Nothing new. No justice, no repercussions for him. He gets to stay in the apartment. My landlord offered me another unit across town, but I can't afford to move in. This exact situation is why I had money stashed away because no one has ever cared about me / us, and I knew that. There's nothing else I can do. And then the OP gives us an update 18 days later with a chilling title, titled, I Thought We Were Safe. And the update reads as follows. A lot of people wanted an update, so here it is. On Christmas, he slashed my tires knowing I would have to pay out of pocket to replace them, which I don't have. Today, he threw a heavy patio chair through the window of the place we were staying at to let me know he knew where we were, and I was asked to leave for everyone's safety. Except my daughter and I aren't safe. I walked in the sleet/snow with my daughter and our cat, and I felt vulnerable and like open prey, so we came back to the police station to sit in the lobby until morning. Shelters are still full, and I now have to disclose that he is dangerous anywhere we go. Police couldn't find him, but I know he has to be close. I don't know what his endgame is. And now let's get into some top comments. Someone says, "Hey OP, I'm a caseworker at a women's DV shelter. I understand all these shelters are at capacity right now, but you can also go to your local Department of Social Services. They might be able to put you up somewhere. When a person enters shelter, caseworkers like me notify the DSS from their county of origin because DSS are the ones paying for their shelter stay. When you go to them to explain you're facing an imminent threat from your ex and have experienced a DV incident within the last 120 days but cannot find shelter, they can sometimes take the funding they'd have used to pay for the shelter stay and put it towards a hotel. Hotels are more expensive than shelters, so they'll be reluctant to do it long term if they do agree, but it's worth exploring as an option." Someone else asked, saying, "Can police direct you to a DV shelter?" And the OP said, "The shelters here are full, so we are just sitting in the police station lobby. We are at least safe and warm, so I'm grateful for that." And then someone asked on donations, and the OP says, "Donations aren't allowed here, and my post could get removed because of it. I'm trying to stay awake and really just venting. I'm so frustrated that he keeps getting away with this shit." Someone else says, "Do you know how he keeps finding you? Have you checked for trackers?" The OP responded saying, "I honestly have no idea. He is supposed to have a new girlfriend too, so I don't know why he's messing with me and destroying property." Someone else said, "Reset your phone to factory settings," and the OP says, "I got a cheap burner after we left. He doesn't have my number, nor have I used to call anyone, so I don't know how he is still tracking me." Someone else says, "You said he sent you a photo of the EpiPen after you left. How did he communicate that with you?" And the OP responded saying, "He sent it through my email before I blocked it." And then the OP makes another update 4 days later titled, "I found the AirTag in the cat carrier." Oh my God. And the post reads as follows: "I checked everywhere I could think of and still couldn't figure out how he was tracking us. I blocked him on everything, including email, after he sent me pictures of his target practice sheets, among other things. I got a cheap burner phone. My daughter was out of school for winter break, so he didn't follow her or anything. I checked my car for a tracker. Still nothing. I do not have an iPhone, so I couldn't check whatever app a AirTag is attached to. My cat is harness trained and wears a collar, but there was no tracker. Until today, I decided to feel up. Sorry, the only way I could describe it. The carrier. I ran my fingers over every inch of it and felt a bump on the bottom soft side. There was no new stitching or obvious cut. He had to use a seam ripper along the stitching. It was undetectable and I almost missed it. He had to have had help because I've never seen him sew anything. Probably the same person who is letting him hide now. If his excuse for the AirTag was to track my cat, he would have had to put it on his collar or harness because that is what he would wear when we go on walks/car rides. My cat would never go in his carrier unless I was planning on leaving for more than a few days. I have no idea how long it has been there, nor do I know how far the tracker works, but now we aren't safe where we are again. I feel disgusting and I feel like hunted prey. This is so unnerving and I'm so uncomfortable. Who the fuck was I living with?" And then one of the top comments on this update says, "He had help sewing that tracker into the cat carrier. Time to check every piece of clothing, every jacket lining, every plush toy, every stitch of everything you own, and utilize the digital tools other commenters have mentioned to ping any nearby trackers. The car has so many places to conceal a tracker: behind interior panels, in the headliner, under the center console, taped to the underside of the bumper. The cat carrier may not be the only one." And then the OP makes an update 6 days later titled, "I finally got the restraining order. I'm hoping this update will make everyone as happy as it makes me. I was finally granted the restraining order, and we get the keys to our new apartment on the 11th, a place I can afford monthly and comes partially furnished. It's in a super safe area right by my daughter's school. There is security. We will spend our time living in our car until then, and of course, it has to be snowing, but we are together and we have our kitty. This nightmare is almost over. And then the OP gives us an update 1 month later titled, "A restraining order didn't stop him. This morning he found me. I've been sick as hell, so after I dropped my daughter off at school, I went straight home. I didn't drive around to make sure no one was following me. I messed up. He broke my nose and shattered my orbital bone. He is in jail. Sorry for this update, y'all." God, that is just so disheartening after the restraining order post, because the OP seemed in very good spirits, and then they made this post. The ex-boyfriend found her and, like she said, broke her nose and shattered her orbital bone. So horrible. And then people under this say, "You did not mess up, he did." And someone else says, "This is not your fault. It is in no way, shape, or form your fault. It is entirely his fault because he is an abuser. I hope he stays in jail, but you need to protect yourself in the likely event he is released. Can you get connected with DV resources in your or another community?" And the OP responded saying, "I'm sure his mom will bail him out. Why can't he just move on? He took my money and my peace. What more can he take until he is satisfied?" And God, you can just tell how, drained the OP is. They have nothing left and they have nothing left to give. It's so horrible. And then the OP makes a comment saying, "Staying in the hospital for the night. I was pretty sick before this happened. My daughter is with a friend for the night. My landlord fixed the door as best he could and told me my cat wasn't in the apartment, so I'm worried sick. I thought this was over. I'm so tired." God, that is just so horrible. Another commenter says, "Please pull your daughter out of her school and leave the state ASAP." And the OP responds saying, "I so wish I could do this, but we just moved into her new place. I should have just stayed with my mom. She lives in another state, but I didn't want to disrupt my daughter's life too much. I have $3 to my name, so I can't leave." And then the OP makes an update 2 days later titled, "Not being able to move even if my life depends on it." And the update reads as follows. "I know the importance of having money saved and I live within my means. How many of us is one disaster away from losing everything? A fire, job loss, a bank screw up, a late paycheck, illness, or someone stealing from you. I had money saved because I knew that any one of those things could happen and I wouldn't have anyone who could help me. And it did. 2 months ago, my ex tried poisoning me and stole the money I had saved. It's been hell since. I was able to break my lease and leave. I went to my mom's over Christmas break, but I came back because I didn't want to disrupt my daughter's schooling and I underestimated my ex. I was able to get an apartment through DV services very quickly, which was a miracle. I know how hard it is to find housing and then try to come up with all the deposits a new place needs. I did it. The cards fell in my favor, but then I fucked up. On Friday, I took my daughter to school and wasn't diligent. I will usually drive around to make sure I'm not being followed. To be honest, I started feeling crazy, paranoid, and angry. I was wasting gas. Plus, I have pneumonia and strep that I haven't been able to pay for the antibiotics, so I just went home to my bed. He found me and broke my nose, shattered my orbital bone, and I have a concussion. I have a restraining order, and he was arrested. I shared this on another sub, and everyone telling me to move, leave, run. Except I can't do that. It's hard trying to explain that to people for the first time because it sounds like excuses. Like I like living in fear or something. I can't pull money out of thin air. My credit card is maxed. I contacted DV services at the hospital, and because I just got help, I can't get it again. The thing I didn't know about abusive men is that they don't just move on or stop. There are DV shelters, but they are full. I wish people would understand that. I know how serious this is, but money doesn't grow on trees, even if a life depends on it. And then some people in the comments under this update say, "Will your parents really not help you?" And the OP responds saying, "I only have my mom who lives out of state. She is on fixed income, so she can't help me. We would stay with her, but at this point, I'm out of luck and nothing worth a damn to sell." Someone else says, "You need to disappear." And the OP responds saying, "Honestly, how? I'm not going to get anywhere on foot." And then the OP makes another update 11 days later titled, "He was with me to get to my daughter." It all makes sense now. If you need more context, please read my past posts. In my first post, I said how we had a normal relationship and he was never abusive, controlling, never raised his voice. The money that he ended up stealing was money I had hidden since before he even moved in. I was not hiding money to get away from him. I was not afraid of him. I lost my sister to DV and swore I'd never have that happen to me, only to end up in that exact situation. We don't have this spectacular love that was filled with insane chemistry, nowhere near a quote love of my life situation, which is why I was so confused by how desperate he got. After he got arrested, his mom went on social media rant because I quote got our baby locked up and knew we were sleeping in my car, so was telling her followers that if they find me, to call her. Very bold and insane. One of my ex's friends saw this and commented, quote, I don't know if you should be sticking up for him. He needs serious help. I don't know how I caught it before it was deleted, but I reached out to him on my fake Facebook. Every time they were drinking, he would talk about her and then laugh it off. It made his friends uncomfortable, but they chalked it up to the booze. 2 weeks ago, when my daughter came to see me in the hospital, she was distraught. It made sense because I looked like hell, but she kept repeating over and over, asking me why he did this to me. I think there was more to this, and I'm frightened to my core. Remember, he stole my EpiPen and money, but he also destroyed almost everything of hers, and I didn't understand it because she has nothing to do with the breakup. Why did he destroy her medicine? Why did he destroy her clothes? Fucking why? Don't abusers threaten their victim into not saying anything? Or something is going to happen to someone / something they love? I'm sick to my stomach even writing this out. I don't know where to go from here. How do I even begin a conversation about this with her? We are safe. I'm not worried about him finding us because he is still in jail, which is great because I'm out of money. He wasn't desperate and crazy because he was losing me. I think it was because of her. And then let's get into some top comments on this. Someone says, he raged out because his plan to kill you and take your daughter didn't work out for him. He destroyed her possessions because he was so infatuated with her. And when he realized that wasn't happening, he lost control. Take care of yourself, and I hope you never see him again. And then someone replies to that commenter saying, good Lord, I hope like hell he didn't do anything to her. My heart breaks for you both. Please stay safe. And please keep checking in with us. I know you have thousands of people out here rooting for you and your daughter. If you live in Washington State, you guys could stay with me. I have a 2-bedroom. I wish you both well. Bless you. And then the OP makes an update 5 days later, and it is a short and chilling post titled, My ex is getting bailed out tomorrow. I'm so angry and scared. I wish I had faith in the justice system and with cops because they are supposed to protect, right? Except that isn't always the case. I'm tired of being hurt and I'm tired of being scared. Anxiety is on 100. It's exhausting fearing my daughter and I's life. And then the OP makes another update 8 days later titled, How can I feel safer at home? I know a lot of people are following my posts and will be disappointed in hearing that my ex was bailed out. I'm still healing from when he broke my nose and shattered my orbital bone. I know a restraining order is just a piece of paper because he ignored it when I was attacked and the police aren't going to save me. For security, I only have a door bar that slides under the knob. I don't have a Ring camera, and I can't buy a pew pew until I have extra funds. He made me sell it a year ago because he was, quote, uncomfortable with it being in the house. Another red flag I missed. My question is what I can do to feel safer that doesn't require money. Every night, my daughter and I push the couch in front of the door, but I'm worried that if there is a fire, we can't get out. I have myself worried sick to the point of painful stomach ulcers. I tried talking to my nearest neighbor, but when I started explaining my situation and how it would be great if she could let me know if she sees anyone around my apartment, she got weirded out, which I get. Just looking for some peace of mind. Will that ever exist in my life again? And then someone makes a comment under this post saying, I volunteered most of my life in some way or another with women's shelters. This cost a little money. One thing we would recommend that is not commonly known or talked about is a life alert. I have fallen and can't get up. If you get in a situation with your abuser, they will think to take a phone, but it takes time to get a call placed. Life alert gives you a pendant you can wear under your shirt that will contact someone immediately by touching a button that's hidden. I have set these accounts up before and told the company that if that button is pushed, they need to call police immediately because the reason it was pushed is that an abuser has shown up and the account holder is in extreme danger. They have your address and may now have GPS and can hear what's happening. Or free. Talk to a few neighbors you trust that if they hear your car alarm go off, to immediately call the police and let them know you need help right now. It's a bat signal and you need help. Sleep with your car keys on the nightstand. Weapons that seem like normal items, hand weights, a decorative rock, a solid baseball bat, a cast iron pan. They live in a certain place strategically placed throughout your house, and you know exactly where they are, even in the dark. Vary your routine. It's inconvenient and tiring, but it helps. Vary your lighting. Borrow timer plugs or purchase a few. Switch it up often. Always park in front of a camera view, at work, the grocery store, etc. Meditation. Being able to think clearly and in the moment is super important. Practice calming your mind, so if you have a problem, you have the skill in place to stay calm and work your way out. It's also useful to heal. Ask neighbors with cameras to include your house in the line of sight of their cameras, and really cheap. Dollar Tree. Window and door alarms, they are loud and at least let you know something is happening. Also, bells like the Christmas ones that hand on doorknobs can be placed on the back of interior doors. Fake cameras are also available, have one pointed at any entrance point, windows and doors inside. It might make them think twice if he breaks a window and sees it. Motion activated singing toys can be useful around doors or in a hallway you would not go into at night, only if you don't have pets. Please go talk to your local DV shelter. They may be able to get you a camera, give you personal alarms, and offer a multitude of advice and resources. And then the OP makes another update 1 week later titled, "Am I the asshole, or was this just a mistake?" I know this is all I post about, and if you want more context, you can read my past posts. I feel like I need to tell someone what is happening so that it makes me feel real and that I'm not just upset and crazy for nothing. My ex got out on bail last week. My daughter and I already left the new apartment we had moved into after he attacked me. My daughter's school knows about my situation and knows I have a restraining order. Today, my daughter got a call from the front office at school. The secretary told her that the pickup car had changed from mine to a new car. She was being told this so that when the school let out, she wouldn't get upset when she didn't see my car. The new car is the same one as my ex's. It is a rare car/color, and she told me she knew it was his car. She didn't say anything to the secretary or a teacher because she was instantly scared. It breaks my heart that she was in fear because she thought he had got me and was going to get her. She was given the message hours before school let out, so she spent all that time worrying. The last 10 minutes of the day is when the kids can use the bathroom and clean up. She started crying in front of her whole class, and when the bell rang, she refused to leave the classroom. I was in the carpool line when I got the call from the teacher. I've never seen her so upset, and that is saying a lot because she was so upset when she visited me in the hospital. Face beet red, hyperventilating, snot everywhere. She had cried so hard she got a nosebleed. After they told me what happened, I was livid. It all sounded like bullshit because the secretary never should have relayed the message without talking to me first, since she said it was a male on the phone. As soon as the secretary looked my daughter up to find out which room to call, she should have seen the message I thought I was saying. No one should ever pick her up but me. No information should ever be released. Quote, "He was never in contact with her, so it's not that big of a deal. It was a mistake," is what they told me. All he had to give her was her full name and what grade she was in to get a message to her. They said that to me with a straight face while the bruises he gave me were very visible, proving he is a violent man. I'm so fucking angry. She told me she knew I didn't get a new car because as much as I try to hide it from her, she knows I'm broke. She thought she was going to have to go with him. She has been so traumatized, and I don't know what to do. She wants to switch to e-learning, but since it's not a medical reason and not a school-wide restriction, I would have to pay to rent the laptop, which I obviously can't. The school is calling it an innocent mistake and didn't even apologize. I know I'm the only one responsible for my daughter and I's safety, but damn, if people could stop jeopardizing it like it's nothing and then acting like I'm the asshole for being upset because it was a mistake. He wasn't there after school. but he could have. And then the OP went silent for 3.5 weeks straight, and everyone was very concerned and worried. This is the longest break the OP has taken in a long time, although the OP finally comes back with an update titled, "Finally Safe," and the post reads as follows. I've had a few people asking, so I wanted to update. I can now confidently say that my daughter, cat, and I are safe and will continue to be from here on out. I can start rebuilding without fear, and I'm not okay, but we are safe. And then the OP makes an update 3 weeks later titled, I've spent the last 4 months running for my life. I just want to say that if anyone is going through something similar to me, you can vent to me. This is something you have to experience to understand how hard it is. I know there are DV resources, but they are extremely limited. I had someone on here checking in with me, and when I explained what was going on, I was asked, why aren't you stable yet? And it kind of took me off guard. Only a few people knew I was pregnant through this. I left my home with basically nothing and went to a hotel, and he found me. I went to another hotel and he found me. I went to a safe house for 2 nights where I was asked to leave because my ex was dangerous. Slept in my car with my daughter, went to my mom's out of state, came back to my home state because that is where DV Resources helped with an apartment. He followed me back to my apartment for my daughter's school. I was hospitalized when he broke my nose, shattered my orbital bone, and gave me a concussion. I had to leave that apartment, back to hotels and sleeping in my car, and finally back to my mom's. So much money feels wasted. I have the opportunity to be added onto her new lease, but it's a bigger unit and requires a first/last deposit. Impossible unless I rob a bank. The pet deposit is already paid. But I only have until the 1st, or we are back to living in the car because we have exceeded our visitation days. A year lease where my rent would only be $500 a month. Utilities maybe $150. I'd be saving so much money and be able to rebuild my life. We would all have our own rooms, which means privacy. Even though we are all female, privacy is precious. I haven't slept in a bed since the hotel beds, but even then it wasn't my bed. It's been my car, hotel bed, or the couch. Even when we were briefly in our new place, I still slept on the couch when it pushed against the front door. I know all my posts are about the same thing, one thing after another. And yes, it is exhausting and repetitive, but think about how I feel. I'm desperate for stability, and I can't get it because he took so much from me. It wasn't until I was out of our house and away from him for me to see how much power he had over my life. It's embarrassing. Even if I have to go back to living in my car, I'll still be around to talk, and I'll still be optimistic because I deserve good things to happen to me that aren't only in my dreams. And then the OP went silent for about a month, but then we finally got an update, although it was not good news, titled, The Vet Gave My Abuser My Location. I want to say this was a genuine mistake and not done with malicious intent, but I still need to vent about it. Just like my daughter's school letting my abuser give her a message. This was an accident, but accidents put my life in danger, and I'm exhausted. I post about my situation a lot, and despite a few users thinking my ex would find my Reddit, I'm not worried about that. However, I am terrified of him knowing where I am. He has gone through a restraining order. Police don't scare him, and when he gets arrested, he will just get bailed out. I knew the only way I could live a normal life was getting as far away from him as possible. So I took my daughter and my cat and moved in with my mom a few states away. I was 100% confident that he didn't know where I was because they never met. We were actually estranged for a few years before my ex and I even got together. I started feeling safe. I stopped jumping when I heard loud trucks. I was starting to get comfortable even though not a lot of time had passed. A few days ago, my cat's back legs stopped working and he lost control of his bodily fluids. I was working, but my mom rushed him to the ER vet. There were questions she couldn't answer, so they asked if he was chipped. He is, but I changed my number a few times lately, so one of the 2 numbers was out of service, so they called the second one. I forgot to remove his number. I know this is my fault. The vet called him to get information, and he didn't give any information and hung up on them. The receptionist said he called back about 5 minutes later and said, quote, "I know she doesn't have money. Tell her I'll save her cat if she comes home." Jesus. He knows how much my cat means to me. He found me the first time I left because his mom helped him sew an air tag into the lining of the cat carrier. He knew if I was to ever leave him, I wouldn't leave my cat. One time, my ex threw him out of the house to hurt me while I was at work, and he refused to leave the porch. My ex then tried squirting him with a water bottle, and when that didn't work, he sprayed him with the hose. He basically got waterboarded and still would not leave. He is my soul cat. When I got to the vet and they told me what happened, I had one of the worst panic attacks I've had in a while. I've had my cat for 10 years, and he has never gotten sick or injured. He has a UTI and a fractured foot from falling. The vet thinks he probably got his foot hurt first, and that led to the UTI since he wasn't using the litter box. I noticed he was slightly limping a few days ago, and I couldn't get him into the vet yet. The UTI developed quickly. I was naive in thinking the vet would save a pet's life, even if the owner can't pay up front, but it isn't like a human going into the ER. I've spent so much money and time trying to get away from my ex while also trying to live a normal, safe life for my daughter. Once again, something happens and he now knows the city we are in. I'm not running again because I can't. I don't think he'll drive up here because, like I said, I'm a few states away, but man, did this bring back my paranoia and irrational fear. I changed the chip information, but the damage is done. I was a fucking idiot for not doing it sooner. This is my fault. I'm so damn tired. And then let's get into some comments. Someone says, "Why did they use the microchip to get your number? Did your mom not have your most recent number to give them or something? Could you not be reached at work yet? That's just weird to me." And the OP responds saying, "My mom was flustered because she knew the ER vet was going to be expensive and knew I couldn't pay, but she couldn't answer any questions because she didn't know. Didn't know how old he was or if he had his shots. I can't take my phone into my work building, and she didn't know the manager's phone number. I was able to pay partial with scratch pay, but not all, which is heartbreaking. A broken heart and frustrating anger is what I feel too." Someone else comments saying, "I just don't understand why the vet would go through the trouble of scanning the chip and calling the numbers on there instead of just asking your mom for your number. Seems like a lot of grief could have been avoided, and the clinic had to do more work to call a company and get the phone numbers." And the OP responded saying, "I've had to change my number over 6 times in a 3-month time span. My mom didn't know it off the top of her head." Someone else comments saying, "If you are communicating with your mom, it would be in her phone. If it changes so often, the last number in her phone would be more accurate than a microchip, which is less likely to be updated. This is very strange." And the OP responds saying, "I was at work. I could not have my personal phone on me, and my cat was having a medical emergency. My mom didn't know how old my cat was or if he had had his shots. They had a lot of questions she had no answer to, so they scanned the chip to get information." And then the OP makes an update a few days later titled, quote, "I can't wait until she is 18. Today, my daughter Z told me that this summer was the worst summer of her life. I agreed with her. Every single day, she has walked to the library with me so I could work my full-time job until I can pay for home internet, and the air condition is a huge plus. She keeps herself busy helping the librarian, or she reads, but I know it isn't what she wants to be doing. Z told me she misses her old life back home. She misses good meals and being able to get whatever snacks she wants at a grocery store. She misses making her bed. We are still sleeping on glorified dog beds on the floor. She misses riding her bike. She misses our cat who recently passed, and I do too. I miss it all too." She then says, "Tim, my ex, didn't hurt you until after we left, and that is why I got mad. If we go back and promise not to leave, can we?" I never told her about the accidents that were happening that made me leave. I had to explain how he hid my EpiPen and started using the condoms I was allergic to. I told her about him poisoning my soup. I told her about the money he stole. I'm ashamed to admit that if he was just hurting me, I would go back. Everything is so fucking hard, and it feels like it'll take years to rebuild, and give my daughter the life she deserves. Except he wasn't just hurting me, he was after her. I had to tell her that after we left, one of his friends told me how he would talk about her, how obsessed he was, and how he was waiting until she was 18. Having to answer her questions, quote, why would he like me like that? He is way too old. Quote, he knew me when I was a little girl. He was like my dad. Quote, I'm not a woman yet like you. It was so hard. It was a very mature and emotional conversation. No amount of money would ever make me go back. I'm sharing this as a frustrated vent, but also in case there is someone who's being hurt but doesn't want to leave because it feels like you can't. Your kids are going to be mad. It's going to be fucking hard. Impossible some days. There's nowhere near enough help that you will need. Losing everything is devastating. I won't say it gets better because I don't believe it will anytime soon, but I do know it won't get worse. There's nothing worse than living with someone who is hurting you, or even worse, hurting your kids. And then the OP doesn't make a post for a few months and comes back with a devastating update titled, My Mom is Gone. I don't know why I'm posting this, and I can't believe I'm typing this, but my mom died. My mom died. My mom died. My mom died. No matter how many times I say it, it doesn't look like real words. I don't know if I thought she was going to live forever or if I thought I was going to be first, but to say I'm shocked is an understatement. It feels illegal. She committed S-word late Friday / early Saturday morning, but I didn't find her until Sunday night. I was working all weekend, and I'm grateful my daughter wasn't home and that she wasn't with me when I found her. We lived together. My mom was my best friend. Z and I have been living in our car the past few days. I can't be inside until crime scene cleaners come. I never thought I'd ever say that in my entire life. I didn't know she was struggling, and I just can't comprehend how not okay she must have been. I can't stop thinking about the bond we had and how in sync we were, but how can I say that now? I didn't see it. I failed. I begged the EMTs to tell me what hospital she was going to, even though I knew it was too late. In the past 2 years, I've lost my sister, my grandma, my aunt, 2 good friends, a miscarriage, my soul cat, and now my mom. I really hope it's not possible to die from a broken heart because I need to be here for Z. I'm sorry this post is all over the place. I have so much more to say, but for now, everything feels heavy. I don't know if I believe in the afterlife or anything, but I can physically feel that there is less love for me on Earth. How is she just gone? I keep looking at my phone, waiting for her to text me to come pick her up from the hospital. Just waiting. And, holy shit. This is genuinely one of the most devastating Reddit threads I have ever read through. And then the OP makes an update a few months later titled, Concluded. Am I the asshole for believing my daughter over a grown man? On November 23rd, 2023, I made a post questioning whether or not I was the asshole for believing my daughter. I was ignorant and naive for second-guessing myself. I've posted updates since my OG post, but here is a little TLDR of everything that has happened since I left. He hunted us like animals, and he had help doing so. I had to break 2 different apartment leases after he found us. He went through restraining orders. I was hospitalized twice after he got violent. We slept in the car on and off for weeks after leaving. Was asked to leave shelters for the safety of everyone else. I eventually had to flee the state after he started targeting my daughter at her school. My mom and cat died. In March of this year, my daughter got MRSA down to the bone in her left foot and had to amputate it. She bravely testified against him, and some of the things that emerged were things she hid from me. He is a monster. She is probably going to have to do e-learning again this year, but this time it isn't because I'm scared he's going to find her. He stole my safety nets and I haven't been able to recover. On July 6th, our apartment flooded and is a total loss. We lost everything we had. He completely ruined me, but knowing he is going to sit and rot in prison in Indiana for the next 12 years brings me so much peace. Last month, he was sentenced and justice was actually served. I know my situation isn't unique, and I know firsthand how hard it is to leave and stay away. I should not have made excuses for the red flags, and I should have left sooner. I still get messages from women saying they would never leave their partner for their kids, although no one in his real life believes he belongs there and thinks I'm the horrible one who, quote, ruined his life. I am not the asshole. And that is one of the final posts the OP has ever made regarding the original post and situation. But I've never read a more depressing Reddit thread before. The OP just had nothing ever going right for her. The OP's ex-boyfriend or abuser chased her down everywhere she went. And then when she finally got some steady time, something else happened with him. And then something else happened. Her apartment got flooded. Her mom died. Her cat died. Her daughter got MRSA and had to have her foot amputated. Truly so horrific. I guess if the OP is watching, please reach out. I can hopefully, maybe, help you out a little bit if you're still in that situation, and possibly give you a donation of some sort. And I hope the OP is in a better space now, and I hope they have continued to recover. I hope the OP and her daughter are in a better and safer environment now, and hopefully on the upwards trajectory, because it seems like they were just going down and down and down forever. And I just hope that they finally have some good graces and good luck in their life. But wow, that was about a 2-year saga of just some of the most horrific posts I have ever read. Some of the most horrific posts and updates I've ever read. I mean, all throughout it, I'm just like, this is going to get better. And it never did. I hope the OP's abuser rots in prison for the rest of his life. And I'm glad he finally got the justice he deserves. And I hope the OP and her daughter are doing much, much better now. But God, that was truly one of the most disturbing threads I have ever read. A former coworker is using burner numbers to harass my husband and acting obsessive. Originally posted to r/RBI, and the post reads as follows. I know this is long, but I would really appreciate anyone who takes the time to read this. In late November of last year, my husband, Paul, was tasked with training a new hire named Frank, who was brought in from outside the company. Paul does not usually lead training. However, Frank's supervisor was overwhelmed during the last quarter. Frank worked at Paul's office for a little over a month. Frank seemed friendly at first, albeit an excessive texter. Even Paul's boss, Frank's future boss's boss, complained that they received social messages from Frank during non-work hours. Sometimes Frank's messages would be incoherent and needier if he did not receive an immediate reply, followed by multiple question marks. My husband addressed this with Frank during his training, and for the most part, the messages became infrequent. After Frank was placed at his branch, the messages subsided. In early January, Paul's boss asked if he could discuss a work matter with Frank because whose direct report was on vacation. Later that day, Frank sent Paul a message that said, "Babe." Paul thought perhaps Frank had accidentally texted the wrong person. Paul didn't respond. Frank sent more messages regarding work. And when Paul didn't immediately reply, Frank made a S-word suggestive comment. And I can't say S-word, but it's kind of intimate and freaky. He made a freaky suggestive comment. Paul responded, quote, "Stop making things weird." Frank apologized, but then added, "You're hot though." My husband told him, "You need to stop. This is not a line I want to cross with you." Frank then said something along the lines of, he was available if Paul wanted him. Paul said, quote, "I'm a happily married man," to which Frank replied, "That's what all men say." Paul again told Frank to stop. I had previously met Frank when I visited my husband's office. Paul has pictures of me on his desk. His orientation and marital status were not ambiguous when Frank sent those messages. Paul told me what happened as soon as he arrived home from work. I said he should screenshot the messages and report them to HR. However, Paul felt so uncomfortable with the messages, he deleted them. Paul assumed Frank was drunk, and once of clear mind, he would be embarrassed and forget that it happened. Over the next few days, Paul received between 2 to 3 messages daily from Frank. They were about work. However, towards the end of the week, Frank became apologetic and told Paul he had hoped they could still be friends. Paul has only briefly known this person, has never hung out with him outside the office, nor has he engaged in social texts. Paul has not answered any of Frank's messages since the first time he told him to stop. A couple of things occurred to me over the next week. A week after Frank was placed at his new branch, Paul received messages from an iCloud account. They said, "Hey sexy," and when Paul didn't reply, they were followed by question marks. Paul immediately blocked the account, assuming it was a scammer. In the last few months, Paul received frequent texts from unknown numbers with local area codes that addressed him by name. Paul thought they were all from robo-scams. I realized that this started to around the time Frank began his training. When I visited my husband's office, Frank barely acknowledged me when we were introduced. That night, I joked with my husband that during my visit, Frank was like a shadow and seemed to appear every time I turned around. After a week of unanswered texts, Frank again apologized and asked if Paul could call him. He had called Paul's office earlier to see if he was there. Subsequently, Paul contacted his assistant managers/coworkers and asked them not to share a schedule with anyone who calls. Frank messaged that he would stop texting and was sorry if he bothered Paul. Later in the night, Paul started to receive messages from an unknown number with a local area code. The first message said, "Hey, remember me?" I *67, the number from my phone, to see if it was a computer or actual phone line. When I called, it rang twice and then went to voicemail. The person never stated their name, and the texts were incoherent. The texter asked, "Are you trying to end my career?" They claimed to be a former employee, and then they said they previously dated Paul. "We have been together for 2 decades, and I'm the only person Paul has ever dated." The messages continuously baited Paul to call the number to find out who was texting him. Finally, they said, quote, "You used to be sweet." Paul didn't block the number immediately because he wanted to see if the person would incriminate themselves. Paul received 20 plus messages throughout the night. He never responded to any of them, and the number is now blocked. He paid a small fee to look up the number and found that it belongs to Envoy. The person used a VoIP to text. Paul tried to look up a VoIP registry online. Paul reported the anonymous number to the FTC with the text logs. He took screenshots of all the undeleted messages between him and Paul and the anonymous number. Paul also called local law enforcement. He knew they wouldn't be able to do anything because no direct threat was made. They told him to keep the number blocked. Paul paid service to retrieve the text he deleted that came directly from Frank's number, but it was unsuccessful. iCloud backup was not activated. The next week at work, one of Paul's assistant managers approached him. They followed Frank on Facebook and were alarmed by his posts. The day after Paul received the text from an unknown number, Frank made similar posts online and added, quote, "With me, you're either ride or die or dead." Paul compiled all of the information he had and shared it with his boss and company HR. Over the next few weeks, Paul continued to receive texts from Frank, sometimes one a week, or once every other week. After a month-long investigation, HR touched base that their legal department found several red flags. However, they can't disclose info because of confidentiality. Nor were they going to fire Frank. Paul has been away on business for the past 2 weeks, and I have been home alone. Paul told me he received texts from Frank that asked how his business trip was going. Just to reiterate, Paul hasn't responded to Frank's messages since he told him to stop, which was over a month ago. Last time I saw, I had several missed calls from Paul around midnight. When I called him back, I could tell he was worried. Same as before, he started to receive texts from a different number with a local area code. They said, quote, "I miss you. Why do you hate me?" The number called him consecutively for an hour. Paul had to turn on the do not disturb option. The following text messages he received were explicit and some referenced me. For the most part, I feel safe at home. We have a PO box and an unlisted street address. There are exterior and interior cameras at all entry points around our home. Also, our neighborhood has 24-hour security. However, I'm worried sick every time Paul leaves the house. We've wanted to start a family, for a very long time now, but have struggled with infertility. Unfortunately, this past month, I suffered another miscarriage. This person has added unnecessary stress to our lives. Last night, I was shaking and could not sleep. Any advice on how to find out where these texts are coming from or how to handle harassment would be much appreciated. Paul and I already discussed going to the police once he returns home. And then the OP makes a quick edit saying more info. We were definitely frustrated with HR's response. My husband was told legal would review all of the information he shared. He spoke to them on the phone several times, hour-long conversations. They asked if he felt safe, and he said frankly, no. Things escalated in such a short period. They took certain precautions, i.e., he was never in the building alone, he didn't work past sunset, he parked towards the front, and security made sure cameras are facing the parking lot. They seemed supportive at first. However, the investigation took a month and they told my husband there wasn't enough to fire Frank. The HR rep did say she was surprised by legal's resources. She didn't realize how much they have access to and that they have found several red flags, but they are unable to share what they found or when/if Frank would be disciplined. Everything was treated like it was supposed to go back to normal, even though it doesn't seem like it was discussed with Frank, nor did it stop. I used hyphens for Paul and Frank because I tried to leave out identifying info. I slipped up when typing out and at one point used Frank's real name, which I corrected. I doubt he'd find this post, but this whole situation has me exercising precaution. And okay, before we move on to the top comments, I just have to say it is beyond ridiculous that Frank is not fired. So the company knows that Frank is dangerous enough to Paul or weird enough to Paul that they have Paul park in the front of the parking lot and they have him not working past sunset and never in the building alone. They have all these precautions, but they're just not firing the guy instead of just like you know what I'm saying? Like that is just so ridiculous. The company is putting all of these precautions in place. Like you can't stay in the building alone. He doesn't work past sunset. He parks towards the front and security made sure the cameras are facing the parking lot. Like they did all those precautions, but they're just not going to fire him. Like what? Like what are they waiting for? Something bad to happen? I just think that is mind blowing how the company realizes he's weird enough or dangerous enough to do all those precautions, but also not fire him. That is ridiculous. That is actually crazy. Like they didn't find enough info or whatever to fire him. What do you mean? I mean, they had all those precautions and they didn't fire him. That is just beyond mind-blowing. But let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, it sounds like Paul and his boss need to go back to HR and let them know their lack of action is unacceptable and is creating a toxic work environment. This is beyond just being not okay. And I absolutely agree. And the OP responds saying he has been forwarding every message to HR, but has not heard back from them in over 2 weeks. To his knowledge, he does not think the company has addressed the situation with Frank after the first complaint was filed. And then someone else responds saying, you need to talk to a lawyer to see if you can get a restraining order and to push HR into taking action. They are there to protect the company, not the workers. You need to tip the scales to make having him there a liability or have it cost more to have him there than what it would cost to replace him. Now tell them that you believe their inaction in this case has caused an unsafe working environment, toxic workplace, and has encouraged the ongoing harassment that has taken place. Obviously, depending where you are located will change how seriously they take it, but it's another report you can log with your evidence. And I mean, like, this is just insane how the HR is just being like, yeah, it is what it is. Another commenter says, beyond getting HR to get their shit together, a restraining order might be a good idea. It might be a good idea to make a post in the legal advice subreddit for more detail on what sort of action to take, since this is outright harassment and borderline stalking. Weirdly, my partner is also named Paul, and we've had a similar problem in the past, so reading parts of this feels a little surreal. I hope things get better for the both of you. And then the OP says, thank you so much for your suggestion. I'm sorry they experienced something similar. And then the OP makes an edit saying, I posted an update with more info. Thank you to everyone who took the time to read and answer. I received a lot of helpful information. And now let's get into that update. Thank you to everyone who took the time to read my original post and offer suggestions and support. I have received a lot of helpful advice and I'm so appreciative. There were a few details I left out because of length, but I tried to answer them in the comments. My husband is still away on this business trip, but will be returning home tonight. Paul does plan to get a new phone number once he returns home. We discussed filing for an order of protection. One source of comfort is that we have a P.O. box and our street address we rent is not available online. With a restraining order, we would have to disclose our address. We're weighing the pros and the cons. My husband and I spoke this morning, and he filled me in on a few new details. His boss called him last night after he sent screenshots of the text from the VoIP. They have a great working relationship, and she disclosed a few things that she wasn't necessarily supposed to share. Legal was not able to link the VoIP texts and calls to Frank. There have been 2 separate numbers that we know of that have been used to harass my husband. Paul used Spoko to look up the information, and both numbers are owned by the company Envoy. My husband's boss suggested that the next time he receives a phone call from the VoIP number to answer and record the conversation. I don't know if he should do that. If anyone knows how to search VoIP numbers so we can connect them to Frank, that would be a huge help. After Frank was placed at his new office last December, he has repeatedly asked to transfer back to my husband's branch. Paul is well regarded within his company and next in line for a promotion. During Frank's training, he would often make comments about how alike they were. Paul thought Frank was referring to their similar background in business. However, I searched online and Frank might have lied about some of his previous work experience. Physically, personality-wise, and familial background, they are very different. I don't think the harassment is just based on attraction. There have been several messages where Frank calls my husband his friend and mentor, which is bizarre because they only worked together for 5 weeks. There were a few comments about Paul deleting the initial text from Frank. I was also frustrated by his decision, but I understand why. Paul had a rough childhood, and his first instinct is to avoid conflict. The text made him feel so uncomfortable, he didn't want to open the messages and see them. He had hoped that they could forget, and had happened. However, the situation escalated. To be clear, those were the only inappropriate texts sent directly from Frank's number. His subsequent messages say things like, "Hey, haven't heard from you in a while. Hey, how's it going?" The texts from VoIP are explicit. There are similarities in verbiage and format from Frank's texts, Facebook posts, and the VoIP texts. I did do some research on Frank. I searched our state's court dockets and found that he was arrested for a DUI a month before he started working at the company. Paul's boss had previously complained that Frank was repeatedly messaging her about when his background check would be completed when he was hired. She thought it was suspicious, but nothing was flagged. At one point during training, Frank texted a coworker from a random number. The coworker asked if it was an alternative contact, and Frank explained that it was his smartwatch. When everything happened, I tried to find as much info as possible. When I Googled his primary number, nothing came up. However, the coworker shared the smartwatch number, which is listed online as Frank's primary contact for the past 2 decades. It also shows several numbers attached to Frank's name, and it is noted next to one of them that it is VoIP. There were previous addresses linked to Frank's phone number. According to one address, a Frank L. Smith and a Frank L. Miller lived at the same residence with the same people. I looked up both of those names, and they have different birth dates within a few years of each other. I was curious because Frank had told my husband he was divorced, and I thought perhaps he had changed his last name. Frank L. Smith had the same birth date as the court docket I found. The biggest thing my husband's boss told him was Frank recently asked for an out-of-state transfer, which is currently being processed but not certain. Paul has mixed feelings about this. He first felt relieved, but then frustrated that the company's approach was to make Frank someone else's problem, and it doesn't guarantee that it will stop. And unfortunately, that is the last update we have ever received from the OP, but I just find it extremely upsetting that he's still working for the company. It's ridiculous that instead of firing him, which is deserved, they're just like, go to another state, to go to another branch that will deal with you. I mean, that's just crazy that he was freaky and sending so many freaky texts and harassing him. And I just think it's ridiculous that they didn't fire him over that. And instead, they just had to make their employee uncomfortable and have to fear for his safety. And same with his wife. His wife said he was shaking, or she was shaking with fear at night because her husband would leave. I mean, that is so sad that this guy was able to just harass the OP's husband and get no repercussions for it. I mean, I do really wonder what happened to him because, I mean, he's probably not going to stop this behavior. He's probably going to go do that to somebody else. I mean, it is very, very odd and very weird. And I think it's ridiculous that the company did not fire him. But yeah, we have not received an update since then. So I assume everything is good and fine. And I hope so because, you know, the OP and her husband need a break. My crazy neighbor poisoned my creek and stole water. I just created this account because my friend suggested I post here and maybe get some advice too. I don't know how to format for Reddit, but he said to make sure that I did. I live on a large property with a small house in the front. There are many small hot springs in the semi-rural mountain area that I live in, with many used by homeowners in their backyard. Many are piped indoors, but some have hot tubs built around them. I happen to have an active one in my backyard. Picture an in-ground hot tub being fed in from the hot spring near my left neighbor's house. I'll call her CN for crazy neighbor. A small stream runs through the far backyards of the neighborhood, and it's used for gardens and little nature areas that everyone on the street enjoys. I have my small fruit/pepper garden watered by this stream and take really good care of it. For some visualization, it has a good amount of water flowing down, and everyone on the street uses it some way. My right neighbor, who's a really chill dude, who I'll call Jay, has small pools he made that are fed by the stream. And two neighbors down has a garden similar to mine. Now on to the actual story. When I bought the house, the previous owners were sued by CN, her claiming that the land was rightfully hers. I don't know the details of our argument, but it was thrown out as far as I know. The previous owners warned me of CN and not to engage with their family. When I moved in, CN's kids, I'd say probably 8, 9, and 10, brought over cookies and welcomed me to the neighborhood. I thought that the previous owner was exaggerating as they seemed really sweet. I invited CN and her family to a small barbecue and they accepted. The second that they got in the house, CN started to explain the rules of the neighborhood. I thought it was pretty normal, like to not play loud music after 9, keep your car in the driveway to keep the street uncluttered, etc. Common sense rules. Until she got to some rules regarding the stream and the hot springs. She said that kids were allowed in all parts of the stream, in private backyards, and that everyone could use each other's hot springs. I have the only hot spring on the street, so I was surprised by that. I interrupted her and told her that I wasn't comfortable with those, and she scoffed, saying that all neighbors were fine with it. I told her that I still wasn't comfortable with it. She ignored me, continuing with some questionable rules. The rest of the night was fine, but I felt like I wouldn't want to do it again. I talked to some neighbors across the next couple days, who all told me to steer clear of CN and that our rules were BS. I went over to CN's house and told her that I talked to the other neighbors and that I wasn't comfortable with anyone being in my backyard without my permission. She scoffed and said okay. I had a lunch with Jay, and he told me who CN was, a serial suer with her lawyer on speed dial to get whatever she wants. CN had sued a small chain pizza place in town into debt for having peanut oil on her pizza when she was allergic to it. The pizza chain didn't even have peanut oil, and many people in the small community believed that she put it on, but still lost everything. I decided not to talk to her or her family. A week later, I got home from the grocery store to see CN's kids, I'll call them EKs for entitled kids, splashing in my hot spring tub. It's outside and usually has a lid on that two small kids would definitely not be able to take off as it is heavy and large. I tell them that they're not allowed in it and to leave my yard immediately. And they stand their ground, telling me that their mom, CN, told them that it was theirs and that they could use it. I told them that that's not true and to leave now. They finally do. Before you think I'm an asshole for that, remember that pools/hot tubs are dangerous and I don't want to be liable. I headed back out to buy locks for my gates. When I got back, CN was now there, demanding why I kicked her kids out. She reminded me of the rules, but I told her to leave immediately and that my security camera was recording. She cursed at me for a minute or two and then left. I was bluffing as I did not have security cameras, but I did order them on Amazon that night. The next day was fine. replanting a lot of my plants from my apartment's balcony into the empty garden, the one that's watered by the stream. I noticed that CN kept looking over the fence. For the following weeks, CN complained about the trees in my yard, the color of the fence, what I'm doing with the stream, etc. Jay occasionally came over and told her to F off. 3 weeks ago, I left for a couple of days for a friend's wedding. I kept getting security alerts saying that there was motion in my backyard. Often heard kids playing in my garden, trampling my deer shishito peppers. I texted Jay to tell them to get out. If you're wondering why not call the police, they wouldn't do anything as they're just some kids. I had a suspicion that CN was telling them to do these things, but I didn't have much evidence. On the drive back, I got a security alert that there was motion in my backyard. I didn't check as I was driving, but when I stopped for gas, I checked and saw CN instructing a plumbing team installing piping from my hot spring into their yard. I had to save all the footage, and I sent messages to Jay about it. Jay told them that they weren't allowed to be doing that, but since it wasn't his house, they didn't listen to him. I called the police and they went, but they had already installed the piping. The team was just leaving through the gate with a broken lock on the ground when the police showed up. They said that they had been hired by the homeowner. The police waited for me to get there while talking to the team of workers, and I told them that I was the homeowner and that I hadn't paid them to do it. They looked confused. I went with the police into the backyard and I started ripping the unsecured piping out with a crowbar. CN starts shrieking from her yard and puts her head over the fence and starts yelling that I'm destroying private property and that she would sue me. CN then says that she has a contract with the owner of the house to have my hot spring water. The police are now confused. She shows me a contract that read that she was paying me $2 per month in exchange for the water. CN won't give it to me so I could look at it besides waving it around in the air. The police eventually leave and warn me not to destroy the piping. I ripped up the small pipe that connects to the source as she's telling me that she'll see me in court. I contacted my lawyer and she said that CN had no case as she didn't know my signature and it would be easy to prove if it was forged. I still haven't been served by CN's lawyer, but know that I will soon. In the meantime, I've been sitting in the hot tub for long baths while talking to myself loudly about how much I love it. Petty, but it made me feel good hearing the growls from across the fence. This is the final thing that made me post here. My garden wilting and dying at an unnatural rate. I heard a commotion out in CN's yard, and I peeked over and saw her slowly pouring a massive jug of chemicals into the communal stream, which goes down to mine. I don't know if it's herbicides, plant killer, or something like bleach. It doesn't smell like bleach, so I don't think it's that. But it's rapidly killing my plants. I haven't eaten any of the fruit/peppers since, as I'm worried I might get sick. I think that if I can get definitive proof of her doing it, I can maybe use it in court to prove how crazy she is. People swim in pools from the stream, so I warned Jay not to for the time being and told him to tell others. I know one neighbor removed her garden from the soil and moved it away from the stream just in case it got down to hers. I'm unsure of what I should do next. I don't think I live in a two-party consent state for video recording, as it doesn't list it as one of the PDF I found. I might cross-post this into legal advice just in case. I do already have a lawyer, but it might be useful hearing free opinions from the internet. Edit. I forgot to say that I had water testing sticks arriving tomorrow. And then the OP makes an update post 4 hours later titled Test Results, and the update reads as follows. Jay offered to use a large drum in his garage to temporarily remove the water from the stream. In senior comments, I'm taking him up on his deal. All the neighbors down the street that I've talked to so far, 2 besides Jay, agreed. One, who has 2 sons, said they might block off the start of the stream. It is a small outlet of a moderately sized creek. It will probably be blocked off, not that hard. Jay said that he can probably get the drum in place by tonight, as his dad can help. Jay also has a sweet dog and definitely wants to protect it. I'm going to remove my plants from the soil nearby the stream. Also, for reference, in size of the stream, it's about 1 to 2 feet across. Truly just a stream. There's lots of obstacles and things that would probably filter out, but we definitely still have to be safe. I'll update later tonight or tomorrow. And then the OP makes a quick update saying, big news. The nice neighbor's kids dammed up the stream at where it starts. It's a couple pieces of wood. a branch or two, and a lot of small rocks. There's still a tiny bit of water flowing, but it's absorbed by the soil higher up before CN. Jay got the drum out, but we turned out not to need it. There's water still in the pools in his backyard, and we plan to do a water test. Apparently, pH tests are sold in a store just 10 minutes away, so I will head there as soon as I finish this post. And then the OP makes another update to this post saying, Jay's getting the pH test and an oxygen level test, but I don't know how oxygen levels would play into it. I'll look at responses and figure out what to do next. I will call authorities soon. And then the OP makes another update saying the water test pH came lower than the creek water before CN's house. A full 0.9 lower. Nitrates a bit higher. Dissolved oxygen significantly lower. That's the only real changes in between the two tests. I wonder if she just poured a lot of vinegar. I think herbicides do change pH, but 0.9 is quite a bit, I think. And then the OP makes an update post the next day titled Cops Pick Up Crazy Neighbor. And the update reads as follows. Big update. The makeshift dam broke and water has been flowing down, but it's been slow. CN complained to a neighbor of the street that she's on speaking terms with about me being a major asshole for not letting her kids use my hot spring tub. She let it slip that she poured vinegar in the stream as justice. The neighbor was also shown the contract for the pipes, and she said that she didn't even have it signed by me. She and her lawyer had signed it, but without any signature space for me. I thought that she forged my signature, but she didn't have any agreement, fraudulent or otherwise, on my side whatsoever. The neighbor similarly dislikes her, but their kids are friends, so she has to talk to CN. I sent all the info to a local environmental charity that has contacts with environmental protection agencies. They usually deal with lakes and dumping, so this was in what they deal with regularly. The police were outside CN's house a couple hours ago and took her to the station. CN is back at her house, now yelling over the fence profanities while I'm having a coffee. I don't know if they arrested her and she paid bail, or that she was taken in for questioning or something like that. I know her brother-in-law works at the police station, but I wouldn't doubt that her family members have a strained relationship with her. I hope that she's stuck with a giant fine and or jail time. CN's lawyer still hasn't served me regarding the pipes, and my lawyer is saying that CN has no case whatsoever. I'll update as soon as anything interesting comes up. And then the OP makes a quick update saying, my power just went out in most of my house. I think CN just flipped the breakers to annoy me. Going outside ASAP. And then the OP makes another update saying, CN did indeed flip the breakers. As far as I know, the security camera has an internal battery for some time after it's disconnected from the power, so I don't have to worry about her doing anything. And just, oh my god, this is wild. I mean, this lady, this neighbor, is completely crazy. I mean, putting the pipes into the hot tub so she can have it inside of her backyard, flipping the breakers, pouring vinegar into the stream. I'm very scared to see where this goes, but I do know this ramps up, so oh boy, buckle up. And then the OP makes an update 1 hour later titled Revenge Tactics. While the government does its thing against my neighbor, I'd like to do the most legal, annoying things to do. Currently, I'm thinking about removing the piping and separating the original cost. I think I will send every piece individually through a local copy/print/delivery shop. I know the owner and I think it would be hilarious and agreed to it. The plan, please help with it. Number 1, remove the piping from the ground and separate every piece into small plastic baggies and boxes. Number 2, bring to copy/print/delivery shop. Number 3, plan deliveries of each package every period of time over a long time that requires signage. Number 4, wait. Number 5, tip the copy/print/shop $100. What do you think? What else could I do? And then the OP makes an update 3 hours later titled The Beginning of Sweet Revenge. I called the owner of the copy/print/delivery shop and he agreed to what I said in the previous post. I removed all of the pipes from my yard and put them into bags. I didn't have as much plastic bags and boxes as I thought, so I'm paying extra for the owner of the shop to supply them. He just delivered the first one to CN. I watched from the street and CN's husband answered. He shouted for CN and she came up. I didn't hear any of the discussion, but she signed delivery sheet, took the package of a single small corner pipe piece, and stormed into her house. She went up to the second story window and proceeded to glare at me since. Still glaring as I sit on my couch while writing this. Working from home will be so nice for watching this. And then the OP makes an update 4 hours later titled Crazy Neighbors Weak Jabs at Me. Since my last post, there has been one more pipe delivery to CN and she is pissed. She stormed over to my house after signing the delivery, which I thought she would stop doing, and banged on the door. I started recording my front door and opened the door. I'm not dumb enough to let her in. CN starts shrieking about how I'm awful and that I had to keep the pipes installed as it was her property and that we had a contract. When I told her that the contract wasn't legal at all, she starts screaming at me. I stepped inside for a second and called the police with the door closed. CN continues banging on my door. I don't open until a police car comes down the street. I tell the police that I don't want her ever to be on my property and that she is trespassing. They relay that to her, and she takes up a hurt old lady act. For reference, she is in her 40s. CN tells them that my hot tub burned her youngest child and that I was luring kids into it. I showed the police the camera footage and they asked for her to come to the station with them. I'm assuming that she made some fake report, but I guess that'll be another charge of lying to a police officer. I think that the officer, not CN's brother-in-law, believed me and saw that she was in fact a CN. I saw CN get back into her house and once again went up to the top window, staring. I closed the blinds. I thought she would stop. Honestly, it doesn't bother me. But to my surprise, she crosses the street to the side of the hill. There's a slope on the other side of the street from the houses. There's more houses up on the slope and stares through my front window. I don't have blinds for that one and was about to head to a different room when I see her trip backwards. There's a small ditch for runoff and land on her butt. CN lets out a ungodly shriek. It wasn't that loud, but I'd like to say it was, as she storms back into her house. I feel at this point, with all of the stuff from my lawyer, from Reddit, and neighbors saying that I'm completely in the right and that CN is insane, has made this more into entertainment than a scary situation for me. I have multiple locks arriving in a couple days and a new security camera for the side yard. If you have any legal suggestions, please tell me. If there's anything I should be aware of, please tell me. And to be honest, I do understand why the OP is saying it's becoming more of entertainment than a scary situation, but I mean, I just feel like the OP should stay, apprehensive. They should stay on edge because the neighbor is obviously off their rocker. They are a little bit psycho, and with someone like this who's staring into the OP's window all the time and doing some other crazy shit, like, keep your defense up because someone like that can do something wild. But I'm interested to see where this goes. And then the OP makes an update the next day titled Pulling Back and Going Forwards Legally. I've been told that messing with CN is probably not going to help out legally, especially with a restraining order, so I just told the copy shop owner just to deliver it all at once. I don't know if that's happened yet, but I'm fine not being looking when it happens. I will file a restraining order today. I don't know how it works, but I hope I can complete it today. No new news from CN except Jay saying that she looked really mad. I know this isn't a big update, but it's an update on the situation. And then the OP makes an update the next day titled Husband Comes Over to Talk. This happened last night and I was too tired to update after it. CN's husband, I'll call him NH for neighbor husband, knocked on my door last night, alone. CN wasn't there, so I answered it. He then tells me that CN is, quote, going through some things right now, and some other stuff. He then asked me if I could, quote, let sleeping dogs lie. She did some stuff wrong, but she's a really great person. I told him that I would consider it. I'm not, but I didn't want to be in that conversation. I honestly thought that he would apologize about it, but making excuses like that is so pathetic. According to many of my neighbors, CN's been like this for years. I think he's trying to cover himself from the bomb they just planted. That's all. New updates probably coming soon. And then the OP makes an update the next day titled Some Resolution, but not in the way you think. I was typing this out earlier, but it didn't save as a draft, so I will paraphrase it instead of writing it out like I did earlier. I went out to get my mail, and I noticed CN rush out of her house onto her porch to watch me. I take the mail and head inside. Through the endless sea of junk mail, there was a wedding invitation. Nobody I know remotely nearby is getting married, and I didn't recognize the names or the faces. On the back was a handwritten letter thanking me for volunteering my house for the bachelorette party and inviting me to the wedding at a local venue. Number 1, definitely did not invite anyone to use my property for a party. Number 2, my backyard isn't the biggest for a party. And number 3, I don't know who these people are. I took a picture of the front and the back and then went and made a copy of the invitation and cut it to the right size. I then took the copy and walked in front of CN's house in the street. She is looking from the door. I then light the copy on fire safely. She runs out and starts yelling at me. I am not entirely listening, as I had an earbud in my left ear listening to a podcast. I listened to podcasts while doing my routines and hadn't bothered to take it out. And at one point, I heard the groom's name. Clearly, she was behind it. I knew before, this just solidified the fact. I called her husband and told him that I was not hosting the bachelorette party and to leave me alone. He asked which one. I told him the names of the bride and groom. He is audibly surprised. He then tells me that the groom is CN's son from a teenage pregnancy, not with him. He then said that he would talk to CN about it, calling it an accident. I find the name of the dad of the groom and call him. He sounded super genuinely grateful when I told him who I was. I asked him about CN, and he said that she had left the baby with him, and when he had sued for child support, the judge said that it was his poor choices that led to the baby, and he was responsible for it, without child support. I told him the situation, and he sounded defeated. Apparently, the groom had been quick to forgive his absent mother, CN, and had invited her against the dad's wishes. He said that he would tell the groom and the bride about the situation. And geez, that was a lot of new information. Hopefully that made sense. But then she continues saying, I then had a thought that would be the absolute perfect revenge. I offered to host the party for free with 2 rules. Number 1, they don't damage anything and clean everything up. Number 2, CN is blocked at the door of the wedding despite her invitation. And number 3, my invite to the wedding still stands. He then said he would discuss it with the bride and groom. Even if he says no, it's worth a try. I just realized I typed it all up in detail, despite what I said at the beginning. I will probably get the news in the next couple days. And then the OP makes an update the next day titled, It was worth a try. Groom's dad, GD, groom, and bride. I was looking over some comments just before posting this and realized I don't want to be screwed over, so I am staying back. Also, GD gave me a call extremely late last night and told me that groom wanted to meet his mom, CN, at the wedding. Bride was supportive, thinking it to be an extremely wholesome wedding. GD said that he would try to find another location for the party, but that would be hard this late as bride had a large bridesmaid group. GD is going to help CN with preparing for the wedding at his son's request, even though he thinks it might be a disaster. My plants that are near the stream look scorched as if they were on fire. I'm thinking about the plants that are next and around the stream, not in my garden. I think the next steps are through legal means and not through petty actions. I will keep you all updated. And then the OP makes a post 6 hours later titled Piecing Parts Together. CN had been trying to gain access to the hot spring for as long as she's known of it. She had tried lawsuits, land disputes, and other legal and legally dubious means to get it. When she heard of her son becoming married, she thought that she could have a good attempt at gaining access to the hot spring. CN had initially offered to use her house for a price for the bridesmaid party, but since it didn't have anything good for a party, bride had declined. She couldn't find another place though, but she still didn't want CN's house. CN had then had the bright idea to tell the bride and groom that she had had a natural, healing, and amazing hot spring in her yard, and the bride said yes. This is when CN tries the whole pipe in the hot spring to her yard. She obviously doesn't get far into that plan after I dismantle all the piping. She volunteers my house and backyard for the party. I think that the stream pollution was lashing out because she was mad before she volunteered my house. No updates besides what I've pieced together from assorted sources. And then the OP makes a post 7 hours after this titled, Revenge is back in action without me needing to participate. GD called me about 10 minutes ago. I was going to post the update right away, but I was reading some of the comments. This is what he said. and asked if my offer about hosting the bridesmaid party was still standing. This is heavily paraphrased to be readable, but all the main points and events are there. GD met up with CN to talk to her about the wedding, mostly setting boundaries. He went to her house with his phone recording just in case anything happened, knowing the history of CN. GD is talking to CN very formally, as much straight facts as possible, when he glances through a cracked open door into her bedroom. I don't remember the word he used to describe it. It was a very good way to say it, but kind of out of the corner of your vision, when you're avoiding eye contact, GD sees multiple white dresses laying on CN's bed. They are fancy dresses. Not quite wedding dresses, but definitely close. GD can't stop staring at it. He then asks CN about what she's wearing to the wedding, and CN says that she has a couple dresses picked out. He connects the dots and subtly leaves the conversation, calls bride and groom and tells them what he saw. He then gives groom some of CN's history. Bride then asks if they can do the house with the hot spring then. GD tells me that he knows that I don't like CN and that I wouldn't be at the wedding, but that the rest of the deal would stand. I told him sure, but not to let CN know about it, just letting herself think that I got pushed around by him into hosting. I know that agencies I contacted about her pouring vinegar into the creek have been investigating, so even though it likely wouldn't, I hope it falls out on the day of the wedding. And then the OP makes an update 2 days later titled CN Angry. I've been asked for an update. There has not been much crazy neighbor activity over time that I haven't updated. I think she installed a step stool on her side of the fence as she's been looking evil-eyeing me whenever I'm in the hot tub. The wedding's coming up next week, so I'm interested in what's going to happen. Not much has happened besides that. And then the OP makes another update 3 days later titled Really Funny Mini Revenge. Okay, I've been told to skinny dip in the hot spring, but I'm not doing that. I'm not socially okay enough for my neighbor to see, even if it's revenge. I do know some people who are. This happened yesterday around 1. Just for reference, I tell some friends who are comfortable in their own bodies that they could hang out in the hot tub, and I'm not going to be there, so they could do whatever. I more asked them to do it after I gave him a little bit of backstory of the neighbor. They happily agreed, and they came around 1. I left for a nice long lunch. When they came back, I told them to call me if anything happened. I also turned off the back security camera just to not be weird. Not 30 minutes later, do the cops call me asking if I was okay with the people in my backyard. CN had called the cops for a trespassing. Hypocrite. And they had arrived and talked to my friends. They had my number, and they called me. I told them that I invited them over, and the cops left. I didn't get a call this time, but the police were called again for my friends exposing themselves to children. The police knew that they were in a private backyard, but still came and pretty much left almost immediately after. It was the same officers, I think. That's all. I don't think I'm going to do anything until the wedding. Thank you for the astounding amounts of comments. It's absolutely insane. And then the OP makes another update 3 hours later titled Creek Modifications. My neighbor 2 houses down just came up to me and asked if I would allow the stream to be changed in my yard. Jay already said yes. There's a landscaping company that's going to be installing limestone along the creek for acid neutralization or something like that. My neighbor 2 houses down does have a garden similar to mine, and I guess that's why. Not a big update. I said yes. I hope this can prevent future acid attacks. And then the OP makes a post 5 days later. The wedding. I haven't updated in a while. Even though some stuff has happened, I just wanted to save it for this giant update. I'm so shocked by what happened, and I guess I should have listened to some advice about being safe. Also, I phrased the update about the card wrong, as the bridesmaid party was last night and the wedding is today. The ceremony just finished a couple of minutes ago, and I got the news of what happened by a mutual friend who went to the wedding. I didn't know he was a mutual friend or going to the wedding. I told him about the situation a while ago, and he decided to let me know. Friday. CN kept looking over the fence. I would have turned on sprinklers, but I don't have any because I don't really have grass in my backyard. Later in the day, a police car pulled into CN's driveway, and a bit after, it left. CN's revenge of staring at me continued a lot more after that. I don't understand why she wastes her time doing it. It doesn't make me feel uncomfortable. Saturday. Some people knocked on my door midday asking if I could let them into the backyard to set up for the bridal party. I called GD, and he said it was the right people, just to be safe. They set up some surprisingly expensive and nice decorations and furniture in the yard, not in a destructive way. People come in and out while setting up, and the backyard looks amazing. CN continuously peered over the fence for a good amount of time, but I didn't care. Around 6, bride and all the bridesmaids, I'll do M for bridesmaids, also about 20 bridesmaids there. I stayed inside mostly, but they occasionally asked me to come out and they drunkenly thanked me. I think the M's were very wealthy, as I received a little over $3,000 in tips from them as I occasionally brought out a carton of ice cream. Well worth it, I think. More to the events of the party. CN had a campfire in her backyard around 9, but there wasn't really any wind, so the smoke just stayed in her yard. I think she tried to smoke us out, but maybe she was just having a little fire. I doubt it though. She then gets her hose to put out the fire and accidentally sprays water over the fence. Eventually, once the party winds down and they're packing up, bride hands a card signed by all of them thanking me for hosting with additional tips inside, about $2,000. I was honestly stunned how nice they were. Around 11, a very drunk CN bangs on my front door as I'm about to go to sleep. I don't answer, but have the video on the doorbell camera. She leaves after a bit, and I go to bed. This morning. This is a secondhand account, so I won't have all the details. CN comes to the wedding in a very white dress and demands to be let in, but the security denies her. She tries to push the security, but he isn't fazed. People were watching, but my friend who was there had to go do something. I didn't ask what. When he gets back, CN isn't there. What's happening on my side? This is my account that is right after, but before I got the news about what happened, CN bangs on my door and tries the knob. Since I was getting groceries a bit before, I had accidentally left it unlocked. She comes into my house. I call the cops as soon as I see her open my door. I run upstairs while I give the info to the cops. CN screams at me and eventually slaps me in the face. I'm screaming at her to leave and she tries to slap me again. I grab her wrist and she screams. I basically drag her out the front door right as the police arrive. She is put in the back of the cop car and the police interviews me. I tell them and they leave. Then I get the news. CN is not back. I honestly won't argue with people about if this is true or not, as what happened this morning doesn't feel real, even though I just lived through it. And then the OP makes another update titled Final Update, FAFO. This is probably the final update, as I doubt any new news will come. CN still hasn't come back from the police station, or she's been hiding in her house. If she hasn't come back, which I think she might have not been able to pay bail, but I have no legal knowledge really. She's apparently facing north of 3 years in jail, but there's a good chance she'll get less or not at all. I grilled some food Saturday and hosted a good amount of the neighborhood. As much as I would like to say I was cool and collected after the assault, I felt a bit shaky and not great, so having some people over seemed like a good idea. I think it's mostly worked. Last night, I went in the hot spring and it was really nice to hang out. And then the OP doesn't give us an update for a long time. But before we get into the next update, I just think it's insane. This entire saga, this crazy neighbor poisoning the water, turning off her breaker, breaking into her house and assaulting her neighbor, just wild. And then the OP gives us an update 5.5 months later, titled An Update on the Creek Poisoning Crazy Neighbor. I really didn't think I would do an update, as I thought that CN would finally stop after getting legal punishment. She so far has only with me. One of my very nice neighbors who has the kids who volunteered to help her stop the creek earlier this year is well liked throughout the neighborhood. I think I'll call her Donna because I don't want to put her name out there after someone found out what city I live in. So she often helps with babysitting kids for a couple hours for a simple IOU. It's Thanksgiving break for all the kids, so lots of people are going on vacation or visiting family. CN and her husband are currently in California. You may think, oh, where are her kids? She left all 3 of her kids at the doorstep of Donna with an envelope that has $50 to pay for the 2 weeks that they're at the beach. The thing is, Donna and her whole family is in the Midwest for the week visiting family for Thanksgiving. CN's kids were out at the door for hours, presumably in the cold rain, before another neighbor noticed them and asked what they were doing. The kids said that Donna had agreed to have them until their parents got back, but obviously Donna wasn't there. They didn't want to call the cops as they thought it was a misunderstanding, so they brought the kids around until a newer family agreed to watch them until it was all sorted out. CN isn't responding to any attempts to reach her, and nobody wants to bring the cops into it. Donna's pissed and said that she won't come back to babysit them and that there was no deal ahead of time. I'm just an observer in this so far, so this is more of a neighbor update. Probably going to have another update or two. Any recommendations? Nobody in this neighborhood wants anyone with the government involved really, and it's not really involving me, so I doubt my voice will be heard or taken seriously. I don't know. Thanks. And then the OP makes a quick update saying, pretty big consensus I should call CPS. I think I will, but not tell anyone I did. CN is not a good person. If you want to know what the full situation is, I'd look at the old posts. It's archived, so I think you can still see it. And then the OP makes another update saying, it wasn't me, but someone called the cops earlier, and by the time I called, they said that someone was at the house already. Currently, they're trying to contact CN and her husband, but so far, no luck. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, CPS should be called. I don't know if you're counting that as government, but CN abandoned her kids for 2 weeks. It's child abandonment, plain and simple. She needs to come get her kids, and if you guys can't get her to do it, I bet CPS will. They are there for the kids and to ensure their safety. And the OP responds saying, I've said that, but the family that's having them now thinks that it's cruel to the kids and would break up the family. It's their choice in the end, I guess. Another commenter says, what's cruel to the kids is thinking you bumpkins know what's best for them and protecting a deadbeat. Kids need stability. If their parents can't provide that, then you are doing them a massive disservice by not calling CPS. No family leaves their kids in another state without knowing their well-being or making sure they are safe. And the OP responds saying, I know, CN is definitely not a good parent, but a lot of the people in the neighborhood haven't directly seen stuff, and I'm not really involved right now, so I don't really have a say. Calling the cops or anyone will just reflect really negatively on me because I think they just think it's a misunderstanding right now. And to me, that's wild. The OP cares more about their image in the neighborhood than the well-being of the kids. She's like, oh, well, it would look bad on me. Okay, cool. But the kids are going to be in much better hands with CPS instead of these neighbors, or not even having a stable place to live. I mean, that's kind of wild. Another commenter says, did she get any jail time based on the breaking and entering she committed post-wedding? And the OP responds saying, not as far as I know. A giant fine and a giant amount of community service, I think. And then the OP is asked if CN got fined for pouring vinegar into the creek water, and the OP responds saying she already got fined a giant amount due to my reporting of it to a local environmentalist group and then taking it to the authorities. And then the OP gives us an update 4 days later titled Not Good Update on Child Abandoning Neighbor. So yesterday, CN actually responded to a call, and when asked about everything, she sent screenshots from months ago where Donna said that she could possibly babysit them for the 2 weeks, but she was still making plans with her family about visiting them. Donna said that it would be $2,000 for the 2 weeks, but she wasn't sure if she could, and that she would let her know if she could do it and not to count on it. CN played it off as a big misunderstanding with Donna as the fault, and pretty much everyone believed her. So the kids are staying at the newer family's house for the remaining time in exchange for $1,000 from CN. I'd say $1,000 in exchange for not being arrested is a pretty good deal for CN that she does not deserve. At least the kids look super happy, spending Thanksgiving with the family, and were playing with their family in the yard for much of yesterday. I guess everyone forgot that the kids brought $50 instead of $2,000. What should I do? And that is the last update we have ever got from the OP on the crazy neighbor poisoning her creek. And I mean, I just find this saga so unsettling and creepy because this neighbor just kept doing shit that was so wild. I mean, just so intrusive, turning off the breaker, pouring vinegar into the creek, staring into her windows. And then she broke into her house and punched her neighbor in the face, or slapped her neighbor in the face. Just a wild saga, and I thought it was very, very, honestly, scary. Even though the OP kind of played off a lot of it, I feel like this was a very extreme and scary saga that hopefully the OP will make it out of, because they're still neighbors, and hopefully the crazy neighbor doesn't do anything else to that extremeness that she has previously, but who knows? And we have not received an update in about 6 months, so who knows? Maybe we'll get an update in the future, but I don't know. What are your thoughts on this? Comment down below. I may have watched too much true crime, but I think my coworker might be missing. My coworker and I are in different departments and buildings, so I don't see her and we don't talk really. We have a lot in common, so we are friendly and chat once in a blue moon via work email. We talked about hanging out, but it just didn't happen due to poor scheduling. But we are friends on Facebook and would like/comment on each other's posts pretty often. We also have each other on the company Skype that automatically makes you available and tells the last time you logged on to the company system. I noticed that she hadn't logged onto the system at work for about 2 weeks and figured she was taking another one of her frequent out of the country trips. She always checked in online for her trips and would still continue to post daily, multiple times on social media. She didn't always pop up in my feed, so I didn't notice when her posts weren't showing up. About another week passed and she still was not logged on. I thought maybe she was taking a leave of absence or something was going on, and I figured it wasn't really my place to be like, hey, what you doing? Why are you not at work? Since we don't really talk super often, and I also don't know how to navigate that situation without a possible HR issue, or if that would be a possibility. Basically, anxiety talked me out of it. I forgot about the situation for a while until last week when she popped into my head randomly and I looked at her work icon and it says she's been offline for 40 days. Being judgy, I thought that was a little long for a leave of absence unless something serious happened, so I checked her Facebook. That's when I noticed she hasn't posted anything since September 25th. She went from posting it multiple times a day on social media to nothing. Her work icon indicates to me that she's still employed at the company. When you leave the company, they put .zz next to your name so people know you've been terminated. So that lets me know they are anticipating her return, but after 60 days, they consider a job abandonment unless you have something in place like a leave of absence. I do think it's possible she's on leave of absence, but this next part makes me feel off about the whole situation. I messaged her on Facebook the other night and just said, hey, just checking in on you. Haven't heard from you in a while and haven't seen you logged in at work. No response when she normally responds within an hour or so because she always has her phone on her. I texted her basically the same thing and the message will not say delivered, but it isn't turning green either, so I know I'm not blocked. I think her phone might be off, like it died. I don't know all of that works when it comes to delivering messages, especially via iPhone. I'm pretty illiterate when it comes to stuff like that. Her Facebook is locked down and I can't see her friends list. Only our one mutual who hasn't spoke to her either. I don't think I can ask HR if someone is on leave, and I don't want to jump the gun and call the police. What is the middle ground here? What should I do, if anything? And then the OP makes an update saying I contacted my manager and informed her of the situation. She didn't know what to do, so she escalated it to her manager, who I know. They checked another system that I didn't even think to and saw that the woman has an out-of-office message displayed. However, my manager said they could not get any kind of information about her being on a leave from HR, which I don't want anyways, just to know she's alive. And they indirectly agreed with me it would not be appropriate for me to ask her direct manager for info. We did discuss me calling for a welfare check as well, but that will be a personal decision. She said she feels that the woman will reappear sometime soon and she might just be visiting family out of the country, which relieves some anxiety for sure. But still, nobody knows any info. So that's what happened so far. Nothing dramatic. And then the OP makes another update, update 2. This one is just to address a few repeat comments. Number 1, I'm not planning to call for a welfare check just yet, and yes, it is partly because I don't want her to accidentally be harmed by this, but mostly because my manager said she believes she may be on a leave of absence and out of the country with family, in which case, good, as long as she's okay. Number 2, the out-of-office message was weird to me because it was put up in the beginning of September, but Skype has her last login as 48 days ago. I think she put the out-of-office message up before one of her trips and just forgot to take it down. So it has no relation to whatever is currently going on, but I could be wrong. We as a company are switching from Skype to Microsoft Teams, however. Business Skype will automatically populate when accessing the system and logs you out. I'm unaware if that feature can be turned off or not. And number 3, while no, we did not talk often, I still care about her well-being. just as I would for any of you internet strangers. I'm not flipping shit over this and shouting that she's missing from the rooftops. I do have my suspicions, but staying optimistic that she's just on leave and is doing well. Hell, for all I know, she could be one of you all commenting here. I will admit there is a tinge of guilt here because she asked me to hang out so many times and things just didn't line up. And if something happened to her or something was going on and she just needed a friend, that could have been her trying to reach out. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, just ask a boss or manager. You're worried about a coworker. Just tell them exactly that. And I would agree with that. And then someone else says, I had a coworker announce on a call that she'll be out for a few weeks. Someone asked and she said she was going on holiday. We were all excited for her. A month went by and we started to wonder about her long trip. Around the world, maybe? Turned out she was dying of cancer and didn't want to tell anyone. A family member notified the company she had passed away. I hope that's not the case here, but this gave me flashbacks. And then the OP gave us an update a few days later. And the update reads as follows. I've purposely been ignoring update requests because there was no update to give, and I promised to give an update when one was available. However, I woke up this morning to have a message sitting in my Facebook Messenger inbox from 2 hours ago from the missing coworker. There were not many details, and she kept things kind of vague, but she told me she kind of went off the grid for a while to, quote, take care of a few things. And she thanked me for reaching out and said that she will be back at work soon. Her Facebook is still bare, but there's been contact made, and that's enough for me to know she's okay. And then people start to speculate in the comments on what the OP's coworker was doing. Someone says, the happy ending this deserved. I'm glad they are safe. But someone replied to that saying, probably mental health or rehab. 90-day stay is rehab. Someone else comments saying, I hope your coworker is fine. One time I had a coworker go missing, and then eventually we found out she got accidentally somehow got locked in her attic for days, and nobody knew she was there for days. She was quiet, but apparently her family went up there, and then they found her, and she was hungry and thirsty. But someone else says, definitely in rehab. Very interesting, and a lot of people think it's rehab. Some other people think it is IOP therapy or chemo radiation, but I just hope the OP's coworker's fine, and luckily this seems to be a good update, and things are going well. Someone is trying to kill dogs in my hometown. Originally posted to r/RBI, and the post reads as follows. Hello. A little bit of background. I live in a city in Sweden with around 340,000 inhabitants. Since December 2020, today we've had over 150 known attempts to hurt and kill dogs. The perpetrator, in most cases, deploys small baked bread buns containing sharp, handmade stars made out of pieces of tin can. See pictures. Sometimes the buns are dropped in plain sight, sometimes near bushes, under leaves, etc. And then the OP links a picture of the quote stars in the buns. Horrible, horrible stuff. I mean, that is just evil, like just straight up evil. And then the OP continues saying, since 2020, a lot of dogs have ingested these buns, and at least 4 dogs have been rushed to the vet for operation. Stomachs filled with sharp objects. In other cases, meatballs containing nails, staples, or shards of glass. The glass bottle kind has been found. Since most of these cases / rumors were circulating on Facebook, I took it upon myself to create a website regarding the cases. I then spent countless of hours figuring out what brand of tin cans were used. Some of the pieces had text on them, sometimes part of a phone number, a little piece of a logo, etc. These were quite common tin cans, unfortunately, so this did not lead to anything. I then got a hold of all the police reports and started to enter all the information into Google Maps to try and get a good overview. In the picture of the map, you can see all cases marked out yellow 2021, orange 2022, and red 2023. And the OP links a map, and unfortunately, it is currently unavailable, so we cannot see that. And the OP continues saying, so the police has no leads whatsoever. There has not been a single sighting of this perpetrator. Best guess is he is out doing this very late at night / early mornings before people wake up. Now to my question for you all. Have you ever had anything similar to this in your town? Or have you heard about similar cases somewhere? I've been Googling around for ages without finding anything helpful. I'm trying to find patterns, similarities, anything. All help would be very much appreciated. And the OP makes a quick edit saying, I've added an image of 2021 through 2022 calendar and marked the days with attacks. Some days have multiple reports. God, that is so evil. And now let's get into some of the comments. Someone says, since you say cameras are not an option, could you organize a community watch? It's a wide geographic area, but maybe you guys could get in early morning joggers and dog walkers to keep an eye out. The buns look homemade, but I think your idea of tracing the she metal is more likely to pan out than finding someone who started buying more flour. I'm hoping others on RBI will have ideas for you. Someone else comments underneath that saying, adding to this, OP, you could organize regular sweeps to pick up the buns before they get eaten and reduce the number of them out there. It's a wide area, so may be hard to coordinate, but at least at the places most recently targeted, that park near the center, for example. And someone else says, does anyone else find it odd that there's a gap in the distribution of these buns on the map, just west of the park? Someone else says, looking at the map, my first thought is that the perpetrator lives in the blank space in the middle, as they will instinctually not want to misbehave close to their residence. However, this could just be because it is a commercial district. I would take a good look at the actual positions of the items to see if you can determine if they were placed by hand or thrown out of a car window. This could inform the type of patrols you will need. Is there any info about the intervals between occurrences? And so it seems like everybody is kind of at a loss for words. No one truly has a good theory or advice on what to do on approaching this. Although the OP gives us an update a few days later titled, Someone is trying to kill my dogs in my hometown, update. And let's get into it. He says, first of all, I just want to say thank you for all the comments and theories in my first post. I've gone through them all and answered most of them, I hope, and took a lot of great information and new insights from it. Now, what I didn't tell you in my first post is that the dog attacks are not the only crazy/strange thing that has been happening since 2020. Actually, we've had 4 and very different odd attacks going on parallel to each other. Number 1, hitting glass shards in playgrounds, in the sand under swing sets, slides, etc. Number 2, arsons at playgrounds. And number 3, attacks on more than 250 trees with what is believed to be some kind of draw knife. And number 4, attacks on dogs. I've made a picture marking out each individual known incident, some might still be missing, waiting for the police reports. And the OP has them all marked out. I mean, that is insane work. Like, this OP, commend to him. He really cares about his community. That's awesome. But let's continue. I've gone through all the news I could find on these and marked out dates and times. I also made a new map. This time I decided to display the bread ball attacks only of the dog attacks because that seems to be the most consistent modus. And unfortunately, it is unavailable as of today. I mean, this was posted 3 years ago, so I guess the OP took it down. But he says, so this map, black attack on dogs, red attack on trees. That doesn't really matter because we can't see it. But he says, my theory is that at least 2 of these is by the same person. Dog attacks plus other. It seems to me it's the same twisted mind planning these attacks. I'm once again looking for some sort of pattern. What I can see is that these incidences almost never occur on the same day. They sometimes end during the same period and start again roughly at the same time. Some of them happened, if not exactly on the same place or close to another incident. They all target people in a passive way. The person is not there to see their dogs or kids get hurt, but he/she knows it will bring fear to the public. The tree markings are always made so that they are visible to people passing by. All incidences happen late at night/early morning. Hitting glass, balls of bread, and tree attacks sticks out for being very uncommon, strange, and elaborated. The map looks the same, even with these new attacks with a similar dead zone. Now my question to you all at RBI. What do you think? Could these all be linked somehow? Do you think it's the same person? Can you see something, a pattern or other? Please share all your thoughts and theories. And for those of you who want to visit the original map with all of the different dog attacks, I've now made it all in English and we can not visit that. But let's get into the comments. Someone says, be very wary. This is escalating psychopath behavior big time. And I agree. If this guy catches wind that this guy or the OP is on his tail, who knows what the psychopath might do. Someone else says, following this with interest. The only further thoughts I have are on possible actions to take along with the drawbacks. Crowdfund for DNA testing on the dough balls. It's really expensive and requires police cooperation. Place hidden trail cams in some of the areas of most concentrated activity. Hours of footage to go through looking for a needle in a haystack. Assemble doziers on pizza restaurant crews in the area and see if any of them fit the profile. Invasive and super creepy. I wish the best of luck to the people of Malmo and hope there is a break in the case soon. And I would agree, but I think the hidden trail cams is probably the best bet. Just put it in the high traffic areas, in the parks, and on the streets, and just, I guess, look through it. I mean, I don't really see any sort of other good way to solve this. Someone else says, hi, I saw your previous post. This is super creepy. I actually think I noticed something. A lot of the most recent attacks seem to be concentrated in the Pildammspark, SP, the west area inside the park, but also a few of the north corner and a few to the south, while the other areas are more older attacks. It looks like they seem to be concentrating on this particular area right now. Would you be able to set up some trail cameras in that park? Or can you somehow organize enough people to watch this specific area? And so far, no ground has been covered in terms of catching this psychopath. But then the OP gives us a second update saying, hello RBI, it's been a while. I've received a lot of messages from you guys for an update, so I will try and get you up to date on everything that's going on. First of all, once again, I want to thank all of you who have reached out, commented, and posted your theories. It has really helped a lot, and I and many others are working on crossing some of them from the very long list of to-dos. So, since my last update, there has been a lot of media coverage. Sivitskin, the local paper in Malmo, has made a series of different investigative articles on the quote, the dog tormentor. A lot of what they have written about is stuff you already know from my previous 2 posts about this. Some is new. For instance, an interview with an American FBI agent named Mark Safarik, who put in his 2 cents on the case. Quote, I have investigated many serial animal killings in my career, but it has always been cats that were affected, never dogs. What you have in Malmo is fascinating and disturbing, says Mark. It has been going on for a long time, at least since 2020, and a number of incidences have been recorded, but no dog has died yet. That makes me believe that the process is important to this individual, and it is not certain that he actually wants to kill, he says. He believes that there are more effective ways to kill dogs than to cut sharp metal pieces and bake them into bread, or to prepare meat with nails or metal. Quote, if the goal was to kill, he should have realized by now that the method doesn't work. Yet he continues since he developed the method and came up with these stars, says Mark. Quote, for this individual, just like for some serial killers I've worked with, the preparations are important. Collecting materials, cutting metal, baking. It can be a slow process to make 100 of these buns, but it is still satisfying for him. He can fantasize during that time. Mark does not think that the cans used for the dangerous metal stars say anything about the perpetrator. At least nothing that can help in the search for him. The dog torturer may have come across these cans by chance. However, it is possible that the person has metalworking as a hobby. What do the different methods, sometimes meat, sometimes bread, tell you? Mark says, quote, the behavior is so unique that it is most likely the same person. Basically, it's the same activity. Even though he uses different materials, it could simply depend on what is available at the time or how much time he has. That the dog torturer holds on to his basic methods over a long period of time speaks to Mark's theory about the motive, to terrorize and instill fear, rather than actually killing dogs. Quote, he doesn't go after certain individuals, but after all dogs. It could be very well that he enjoys getting feedback when it is reported in the media, but also that he feels he can manipulate the police without getting caught. Mark highlights an important experience from the FBI's profiling of serial criminals that gives hope for finding the right person. The perpetrator's need for appreciation or to be seen makes them talk easily. Quote, both with mass murderers and serial killers, we have noted such leaks. In their contracts with their surroundings, individuals reveal important information. Often, certain elements of truth are woven together with lies. Leaks how? Quote, important or offensive comments that people around him find strange, but most dismiss or explain away. In conversations with others about the dog attacks, he may say, for example, "The perpetrator seems to be good at what he does," or "I can understand that someone would want to." A kind of reverse praise for himself. Here, the media can play a role. Mark says, by appealing to those around the person who have heard strange statements. Quote, "If you hear someone saying something unpleasant or odd, at least consider informing the police. I know that many people do not want to get involved, but that is the kind of commitment that is needed to move forward. There have been no reported dangerous buns or meat pieces since January of this year, an unusually long period of calm considering the statistics of recent years. The dog torturer may have been scared into silence temporarily. Perpetrators who follow what is written stop or decrease their activity if the media coverage becomes too overwhelming," says Mark. "In some cases, they can also change the area or the approach, but your dog abuser won't do that. He seems to have acted only in Malmo. I would say he will stay there because he knows the city." You say he, but is it a man or a woman? All these serial offenders I've seen who have targeted animals, tortured or killed them have been men. We cannot exclude a woman, but statistically, it is probably a man. Mark repeatedly emphasizes how important preparations are for the offender. They completely fulfill their psychological need. For the dog abuser, he can hardly be present and watch the dogs eat the bread rolls or meat. Overall, this indicates mental illness, according to Mark, and he is sure that the dog abuser will continue, no matter how murky the motivations seem. If he was angry at a particular dog for something that happened, it is more understandable to attack out of anger or revenge, but eventually that feeling disappears as it is acted out. The question is whether the dogs are the target or merely a tool for this serial offender. He has made some adaptations to his behavior. Given that it has been going on for a long time, it is unlikely that he is trying to find new ways to attack. He will continue. And yes, there was a long pause since the last incidents late January, but now he/she/they are back. Last week, one incident early Monday morning, same balls of bread with sharp objects inside. Today, one more incident with the same thing. Some modus as all the rest of the incidents. This time, however, the new incidents does not follow the usual pattern location-wise. These two are quite far apart and outside the hotspots. See highlighted pings on map. And now we have a picture of the map finally, and we can see that the hotspots are definitely downtown. I'm kind of curious how he got them out into the water, but I digress. But yeah, they're definitely a lot farther out. Very, very interesting. And he continues saying, he's most likely following the media coverage and is probably doing this as an attempt to confuse. And as usual, no one has seen anything. In the incident last week, there were security cameras in the vicinity. I reported this to the police as quickly as I could, but since it was a holiday, I think it was too late to retrieve anything. But who knows? Hopefully, I'll get an update on that soon. Other than that, nothing really new right now, unfortunately. I've done some media, podcast, TV, and I have opened an anonymous hotline with a phone number, and you can call 24/7. And also an anonymous form for anyone to fill out who thinks they have valuable information about the case. My next step now is to plaster the 250 posters I picked up today all over town that has all the important information about the case and some links and QR code for reporting stuff. I've also made all the police reports available for free to anyone who wants them. So now I hope there are hundreds of private detectives running around looking for this person. As of today, I have a little FB group and chat with 2 other people who are doing some very cool stuff that I can't go into detail about right now, but I really think we are on to some good stuff. Now, RBI, I want to ask you, if you read this and my other 2 posts and think, hey, I think I can help here, feel free to contact me here in a comment or send me a PM. My dream is to have a team of people with different knowledge and skills that I can join together and work this case hard. I will be back for update number 3. Cheers. And then one of the top comments on this post is, I have a little theory that's been buzzing in my brain since your last post. I think this may be a pizza delivery driver. The buns are bread dough, maybe leftover pizza-based dough. The metal is tomato puree/sauce cans. I believe there was another reason pizza places were theorized, but I've forgotten by now. Went back and checked, the other cans were feta cheese. The drops happened at night / in the early morning, prime delivery hours. No one notices pizza delivery people, much like they don't notice the postman or the cleaners at the office. They fit into the scenery. The very first bread drop back in 2021 was likely close to the perpetrator's base. The profiler says that the preparation is very important to this individual. They've spent time making these buns, carefully cutting stars and wrapping them in dough. When you make that kind of effort with something, you are excited and want to use it right away. Add in that first time fear of being spotted or even being stopped and someone discovering your dangerous cargo, and they likely didn't go very far at all. They will want to be somewhere familiar, somewhere where they know it well enough to be able to flee to safety if needed. It would also increase the chances of our suspect would hear about the reaction via word of mouth. People love to talk, especially about something like this. The first drop on 11/24/2021 was at Ablageskan. I'm sorry for all my Swedish viewers, but I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. Right next to Pizza House. And then the OP responds to this comment saying, "Hello and thanks for your input. I think the biggest problem with this theory is that we have almost nothing open after 1 a.m. Most of these incidences are found early mornings after 7 to 8. People walk their dogs late at night, but I don't think any of the cases have been reported late at night, so that tells me this is probably happening around 3 to 6, give or take. After 1, there are no food deliveries going out. Could even be that they close earlier than that, since a big chunk of the incidents has happened on weekdays. That being said, anyone working with pizza could bring both tin cans and pizza dough home after work to start baking / cutting. Leif J.W. Persson, Sweden's most famous criminologist, says this, quote, "I envision a man in his 50s with local connections both in terms of residence and profession. He runs a food business, something like a pizzeria or kebab place, a food truck / small restaurant, and he has complained to the police several times about all the people who walk their dogs outside his shop. All of his complaints have been dismissed immediately, and the police's response has made him an active litigant and led him to decide to take matters into his own hands." End quote. Persson says that he believes the dog torturer has a foreign background, a wife and grown children. He does not elaborate on what motivates this belief. Persson also brings up geographic profiling in his reasoning, quote, "He lives alone with his wife, who is a few years younger, in a 3-room apartment located within a radius of about 1 kilometer from the epicenter of the dog killer's activities." Very, very interesting. And then the OP gives us a third and final update. Let's get into it. Hello, RBI. It's been a while. Things have been relatively quiet on this front for some time. The last incident was reported in April of this year, and since then, there's been a lull. But not anymore. Sivitskin, our largest local newspaper, published an article titled, quote, "How We Stopped the Dog Tormentor." While it's a lengthy piece, the gist is that they received numerous tips leading them to a person residing in a central area of Malmö. She lives in an area where no incidents have been reported. This aligns with our previous discussions, highlighting the classic pattern where perpetrators move to surrounding areas to carry out their crimes, the "don't shit where you eat" principle. Reporters from the newspaper initiated a stakeout outside of the individual's home at night, hoping to catch them in the act. Unfortunately, this proved unsuccessful. They then enlisted the help of a young girl, accompanied by an adult, who posed as a salesperson and went door to door in the apartment complex. The girl eventually knocked on the door of the suspected perpetrator and asked if she was interested in purchasing the offered items. The person who answered the door turned out to be an elderly lady, appearing like any normal neighbor. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. They had a brief conversation and left. Later, in an interview, the young girl mentioned that it, quote, "smelled like the lady was baking." Following this encounter, the reporters confronted the woman directly, asking, quote, "What is your involvement in this?" Naturally, she denied any connection to the case. Since then, all dog attacks have ceased. There has been no activity for almost 9 months. Until yesterday, a woman was apprehended in a park on the outskirts of Malmö. Upon searching her purse, authorities discovered dough and fragments of glass. Subsequently, she was transported to the police headquarters, interrogated, and today she was formally arrested. Do I believe this is the same individual highlighted by the reporters in their article? No. Do I think she's responsible for all 170 plus dog attacks, suggesting Silvetskin's error? No. What troubles me is that the person now in custody committed this act in the afternoon, when people were clearly present to witness it. It's worth noting that the OG perpetrator has never been seen before, and most incidents have occurred during late nights or early evenings. I will, of course, follow this development with keen interest, and I wanted to provide you with an update. I will now paste all of my previous posts in chronological order, and feel free to read and engage in discussion and speculation. And now let's get into some comments. Someone says, so you think the arrest woman is a copycat? Or maybe she changed her behavior because of the coverage? And someone replied saying, I would ask, quote, who the fuck copycats killing dogs? But I also don't know what could possess someone to do the original crime in the first place. Someone else says, I don't think the arrested person is the original perpetrator. The original was careful and meticulous. I highly doubt they would have gotten so sloppy, especially with the increased media attention. And then someone else says, truly never expected to see a resolution to this. I'm shocked. And the OP responded saying, if it's a resolution. Let's wait and see where it goes from here. And that is the last update we have ever gotten from the OP regarding this topic. But I mean, this was wildly interesting because this was like a real manhunt and a real mystery being solved by Reddit, or at least attempted to. But what do you guys think? Do you think that person who ended up getting arrested was the real perpetrator? I doubt it. I just don't think the person would get that sloppy and do it on a sunny afternoon in a park. I really don't. But at the same time, why would someone even copycat that? Very weird, but a very interesting post. And shout out to the OP for doing that hard work in trying to find out who the monster and psychopath was. The OP clearly put in a ton of effort, and I mean, I just completely commend him for that, for trying to, keep his community safe and put away this disgusting monster. But a very, very interesting RBI post. I hope you enjoyed that. But do you think the perpetrator is still out there, or did they get arrested? And I'm curious where that perpetrator is now, and if they will ever